You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 637.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from the APG Road Vessel Studio. Today's show is recorded on the week of October 28th, 2024.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Picture light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a Sri Lankan captain locks his first officer out of the cockpit. And in Spain, a 737 goes around because another plane was still on the runway taking off. Also ahead, more news and your feedback. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 637 is ready for pushback.
All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Radio Roger Stern. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the number one all-news station in the nation. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in
New York City!
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, former U.S. Air Force pilot, retired Delta Airlines captain. And joining me today from her lakeside studio in South, Dr. Skydiver, marathon runner, IPA connoisseur, commercial multi-engine instrument rated backstabbing jumper dumper, it's Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff and Liz. Good to see you guys. As Liz said, 3 weeks in a row for me. Some kind of recent record. So
3 weeks in a row, Steph. Mark it down.
Yeah. All right.
All right, very good.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to it. I know we got a lot of good feedback to tackle.
Yeah, we're going to knock out a bunch of feedback today, I'm hoping. All right, and so let me fade that one out and hit this button here. And from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer, it's the lovely Liz Piper.
Hello. It's great to see you guys in the chat, and Jeff and Steph.
Yes, this is part one of two parts on this episode 637. And yeah, I think we should go ahead and get started with some aviation news. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right.
Yep. See you later.
All right.
Stand by for news.
Okay, we're going to start off with this from the Aviation Herald. And we're basically covering this to show that the kind of incidents we've had a lot of lately here in the U.S., you know, the runway incursions and such, aren't just limited to the United States of America. It happens all around the world for some reason. Okay, Ryanair, Boeing 737-800, a MAX.
8 MAX.
Oh, no wonder. And
that's the whole reason why.
I think so. Yeah, and another Boeing 737-800, a non-MAX, Malta Air.
Disaster.
At Las Palmas on October 12th, 2024, which was a couple weeks ago, I guess. Loss of separation on the runway. And let's see, Ryanair was performing the flight 2296 from Las Palmas to Palma de Mallorca. With 121 passengers and 6 crew, was accelerating for takeoff from runway 3 right. A Malta Air Boeing 737-800 on behalf of Ryanair, registration 9 Hotel Quebec Bravo Lima, performing flight 5822 from Rome to Las Palmas with 171 passengers and 6 crew. That's bunch of passengers on these things, was on final approach to runway 3 right, descending through about 250 feet AGL when the crew initiated a go-around. The departing aircraft was still in the departure roll about 1/3 down the runway at the time. According to ADS-B data transmitted by both aircraft, 5822 was about 0.98 nautical miles behind 2296 when the 2296 climbed through the altitude of the guy going on the go-around at about 500 feet. Let's see. So just under a nautical mile lateral and 500-foot vertical clearance. Spain's CIAIAC opened an investigation
Say
into
that
the
3
occurrence.
times fast.
CIA, I can't.
Don't try.
Okay, on October 20, and don't ask me what that stands for because I have no idea.
I'm going to say it's something maybe roughly equivalent to the US NTSB, I would think.
Yeah, but I want to know exactly what it is in Italian. And then I want to hear you.
Or Spanish? Or
Spanish.
Spanish,
excuse
probably.
Me. Oh, I guess Spain would probably use Spanish, not Italian. Okay. On October 25th, this is going so well. The CIAIAC reported.
Comisión de Investigación de Accidentes y.
Okay. I love that.
Really
Sounds
good
very
that.
nice.
Sorry.
Well, that agency reported that Echo India Fox Sierra had been cleared for takeoff when 9 Hotel Quebec Bravo Lima was 3 nautical miles before the runway threshold. Okay. They began their takeoff roll when the guy on final was descending through 350 feet. The crews of both planes tried to contact the control tower, but received no response at first.
Yeah, that's scary.
Well, yeah, that's the part that is kind of what made this kind of an incident, I think. So no response from tower, had to communicate with each other. Okay, well.
Having a siesta there?
Both then contacted the approach frequency, 124.3, and approach instructed the crew of the aircraft registered 9 Hotel Quebec Lima Bravo to climb to 3,000 and subsequently gave them vectors to land. At the same time, they authorized the crew of the aircraft registered EIIFS to continue the climb to 10,000 feet, continue on their planned route. The tower subsequently contacted both aircraft and informed them that there had been a communications failure. Okay. Weather at the time was just a few clouds, very light winds, a very nice 22, 23 degrees Celsius. So pretty nice weather. And usually there's a lot of wind there. So, and this is one of those times when winds weren't really a factor at all. And I would like to say that this kind of thing happens quite often all around the world where, the tower wants to try to, get a, what do they call that operation?
Squeeze play.
Squeeze play or something like that. If the flight that's taking the runway for departure, doesn't get on it right away, delays a little bit longer than perhaps the tower controller was expecting them, then, you might have a tight separation, may not work out, and then you instruct the go-around. In this case, since tower wasn't on communication or on frequency or whatever, having the issues with the frequency, he wasn't able to instruct the flight on the go to offset or do anything else. Now, personally, I would have, automatically just offset a little bit so I could, for a couple different reasons, knowing that the guy on the runway is going to be launching almost, directly straight ahead and upward. And so I'd like to get a little bit of spacing, give myself a little bit of a offset vector to prevent that from happening. And also gives me a chance to look out my window or the first officer's window and see, kind of put eyeballs on that traffic, keep your eye on what they're doing and, prevent from, having a midair collision. But otherwise, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a really big deal to me.
Would
What
you
do
see
think?
him coming up in
No.
TCAS, Jeff? Would you see the plane ascending in TCAS?
Liz wants to know if
Yeah.
So you're asking about the aircraft on approach would see the aircraft
Yeah.
on the runway on TCAS?
No,
Yeah.
they would not. the aircraft on final, the readout from on the TCAS of the aircraft on the takeoff roll should be, what do you call it?
Inhibited.
Inhibited, thank you, until they get a couple of 100 feet. I'm not sure exactly. I've already forgotten what the altitude requirement would be to finally kind of start triggering the TCAS on the other airplanes' displays.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But the guy on the takeoff roll would be able to see on their readout on their screen the flight coming in and how, what their altitude is, or actually more importantly, how close they were to, if they had the right range selected on their TCAS display. So, but again,
I mean, this kind of stuff, it happens.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, in this environment, I think you're kind of depending more on your eyeballs and looking outside and seeing things than you are on your TCAS display or whatever. But you want to use as many things available to you, just as Steph always uses the ADS-B to get a good picture, a good essay on what's happening around her when she's flying. And as you say, Steph, it's not really that uncommon for this to happen. So I don't look at this as one of those things like some of the other issues that we've had in the States lately where
it's the only unusual one with this is that when they did try to contact Tower, the Tower was not able to communicate. So, potentially a little bit more confusing for a few moments there for both of those aircraft, but that wasn't, it wasn't kind of the same instance where both aircraft received clearances kind of on intersecting points on the ground, basically, where they would have had a collision there. This is more like, the instance where maybe the aircraft ahead of you hasn't cleared the runway quickly enough. You have to go around. And then this is the opposite of that, where aircraft clear for departure just does not get going as quickly as expected.
Right. And of course, it would have been the whole thing would have been compounded had the weather been like a low ceiling, low visibility. Sure. Now we're talking a lot about, really kind of cranking up the escalation with weather conditions. But in this case, looks like it was a pretty nice day. So that was helpful in this situation.
Before you move on, Jeff, Ray has a question for you.
All right, Ray, in our live audience, do I need to arrange an airdrop of an IPA? Yeah, Ray, if you could arrange that, then let me give you my coordinates. Okay, this next one, again from the Aviation Herald, another incident, Sri Lankan A333, I've never heard anybody say that, an Airbus A330-300, en route on September 21st, 2024, the captain locked the first officer out of the cockpit for probably a pretty good reason.
I'm sure he had good reason. Yeah. He's like, you know what? This guy's getting on my last nerve. Get out.
I don't know what she was eating last night, but she's out of here.
Oh, the captain or the first officer?
First officer is a woman. Sri Lankan A330-300 registration for Romeo Alpha Lima Romeo performing flight. What? What are you saying? When I'm talking, I can't hear what you're saying.
Liz is no longer on the stream, so I'm not sure.
Oh. No wonder she couldn't hear me talking. Okay. Hey, Liz. Where are you, girl?
I'm back.
Oh, she did the swipe thing on her mouse.
I did the swipey thing.
Oh, okay. This is going
I have a related funny story that I will tell you both later before we close things down, but not on air.
Okay.
I'm just pretending this is a beer.
Is it a Topo Chico? What do you got?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Thought I recognized that bottle.
I love this stuff. This is the best sparkling water. I don't know what they put in it.
It's alcohol. It is
good.
I'm not sure, but it's really tasty. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's continue with this from the Aviation Herald. It's an incident involving a Sri Lankan A330. Let's see, they were en route on September 21st, 2024. Let me read here. Let's see, they were flying flight 607 from Sydney to Colombo, Sri Lanka. Was en route when the first officer left the cockpit for a toilet break. The captain locked the door and refused to let the first officer back in. The aircraft continued for a safe landing in Colombo. The first officer filed a complaint after landing, indicating that a disagreement between the captain and herself had caused the lockout. The airline reported the captain has been grounded. Sri Lanka's Civil Aviation Authority have opened an investigation.
If you go down to the next news item, he's actually resigned now.
Oh, okay. So we're going to skip down to another news item listed here from Aviation A to Z. Aviation A to Z.com. Interesting. A serious protocol breach occurred on the Sri Lankan Airlines Flight 607 when the captain locked the first officer out of the cockpit during a routine restroom break. Let's see. He has now submitted his resignation following a controversial incident where he locked the first officer out of the cockpit.
Teach courses on CRM.
Oh, I'm sure that is not true. The incident occurred during a Sydney to Colombo service after a disagreement. The A330 flight maintained its operation despite the first officer's lockout, causing stress among passengers and crew members. The Daily Mirror Sri Lanka confirms the captain faced initial grounding while the airline launched an investigation into the incident. A serious protocol breach occurred. Yeah.
What really happened? What really happened?
Well, oh yeah. That's exactly what I'm seeing right here. It says what actually happened.
Oh,
okay. Well, why don't you tell us, Steph? What actually happened?
Okay. So there was a we're going to skip that first paragraph, though.
Okay.
So aviation safety protocols require a cabin crew member to enter the cockpit when one pilot exits. The captain exploited the brief transition period to secure the cockpit door, deliberately isolating himself on the flight deck. Senior cabin crew members intervened through the communication system to restore cockpit access. The captain's actions created tension among crew members and compromised established safety measures. First officer filed a formal complaint upon landing, and Economy Next, I guess this news outlet reports, highlight the incident's violation of standard aviation practices, which mandate 2 individuals in the cockpit during all phases of flight. International aviation regulations permit pilot breaks during long-haul flights, but require continuous dual occupancy of the flight deck. So a flight attendant must replace any pilot leaving the cockpit during 2 pilot operations.
So I have some questions.
I do too.
First one.
I don't think that actually answers the question what actually happened.
No,
Like,
it didn't.
Where was the what was the fight? That's what I want to know. I want the juicy details here.
I'm
the
not sure we're going to
disagreement.
see that in any of our news sources here. We have to get one of those, those tabloids, that you see at the grocery store when you're checking out. I don't know. Maybe they were romantically involved. Who knows? Not sure what the disagreement was about, but first of all, the way it worked with me in my previous airline life was that the person that was going to be in the cockpit to replace the exiting first officer would come in first, so you'd have at least 3 people up there, and then the one that needs to go to the bathroom leaves after. You know what I mean? So you don't just leave and then
you don't have one person in there who can then just
lock the door
and lock the door.
Yeah.
Captain. They were calling. I like the other news article. We didn't quite get to it. And the other one was calling them Captain Lockout.
Captain Lockout.
Captain Lockout.
Okay. And well, the other thing, which is unclear to me from this news article, was that senior cabin crew members intervened through the communication system to restore cockpit access. Does that mean they just called and talked to the captain and said, "Would you please open the cockpit door, let her back in, because everybody's freaked out back here because you've locked her out"? Or does it mean that they used the little keyboard that we have to put in a certain code So in the event of crew member incapacitation, it's possible for cabin crew to access the cockpit through that kind of a system.
I think Neil Lanwarn knows the reason this happened.
Oh, Neil Lanwarn in our live audience says perhaps the captain just had an uncontained FARP and didn't want to embarrass himself. That's possible too.
There you go.
Yeah. Or maybe the first officer did, and the captain was so grossed out
Like,
by the whole thing.
Don't come
Disgusted.
back.
He goes, just leave and don't come back,
Just leave.
please,
That's right.
because I'm going to have a physiological incident if you come back in with that awful closed FARP. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, you'll have to watch the previous episode entitled "Closed FARP Due
Indigestion.
Accidental indigestion." Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Well, that was interesting. I wish we had more information about what happened, but
Maybe he'll go to the tabloids now that he's resigned and give the whole story.
yeah, that could be. And I'm thinking that the captain must believe that, in hindsight, in retrospect, that he was in error by barring the first officer access to the cockpit once she was finished.
Well, either he believed that and voluntarily gave a resignation, or he was
Told to
highly
believe it.
encouraged to
Oh yeah,
resign pending.
mandatory volunteering.
Yeah, exactly. he was voluntold to
Voluntold.
resign.
Okay, that could be. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll kind of keep the eyes and ears open and see if we can determine what actually happened here. If not, it's just going to remain a mystery, I guess. We could just make up our own little stories. All right. Shall we go to getting to know us?
Yeah, let's get to know
Sure.
Steffi.
Okay. Here we go. Running so smoothly.
It's all the joy and charm of the show.
Is making the sausage.
Yeah. Normally the sausage being made is kept from the prying eyes of the people listening to the audio only podcast, but now they get to get a little bit of a taste of sausage being made.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the time of the show where we kind of get all caught up with what's been happening. I have a feeling, well, for me at least, nothing.
Yeah, you haven't
has-
been doing anything except editing and singing.
I've been editing and singing, and I've been watching some Formula One Grand Prix of Mexico coverage, and that's pretty much it.
We'll revisit you on Saturday and see if you've done anything interesting.
Okay, don't hold your breath.
We won't.
Steph, how about you? I'm sure you must have done something much more exciting or interesting.
Not terribly. It's
No?
actually not been very long since the last time we talked, and I didn't have anything real exciting the last time. I went through my photos to see, and I'm doing the same thing again here. We celebrated my youngest brother's 36th birthday on Friday last week.
Cool.
His choice was to go to a local get your seafood in a steamed bag type restaurant.
Is that
and,
Taco and Truman?
No, that is my neighbor's dog who is
Oh.
out there all hours of the day doing this.
Oh,
if you can
how
hear it in the
nice.
background. It's
Okay.
lovely.
I don't think I've ever heard
I-
that before.
For about the past year or so. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've
Or
just
s-
been lucky, but this
Yeah.
happens all the time
You must love
around
that.
the clock. Fortunately, I sleep like the dead and don't hear anything, but
Mhm.
I've had guests stay over at my house and they are not amused by the 2 a.m. Yapping that happens sometimes. So,
2 a.m. Wow.
oh yeah, or any time of night, really. So,
Wow.
anyway, neither here nor there. Pretty sure that particular neighbor does not watch the show, so
Yeah.
she will not get my strong hint there that it's very welcomed and appreciated. But anyway, it's a cute dog. It's a cute dog, just very loud. Yeah. So yeah, birthday celebration Friday night for my youngest brother. big seafood steamed in a bag, boil. You kind of pick the things you want. He went for
what's that red, like juicy
and-
something or other?
there's a bunch of them that
or-
are kind of similar. This one I
Yeah.
think is called Let's Crab.
That's so good.
And it's
It is.
really good. The seafood is really good, but this particular restaurant has the most outrageous like birthday humiliation experience I've ever seen. And he fully knew
Great.
it because we've taken other family members there before.
Yeah.
But the normal background music all of a sudden will just abruptly stop, and then a very loud, like hurt your eardrums loud version of an obnoxious happy birthday rendition plays. And like your one server, it's not like even a group of people, just like one server comes out with this actually pretty good cake, like a cheesecake type deal, with a like a giant firecracker stuck into it. And this thing emits sparks like
a
pretty
sparkler,
like
a
yeah, it's it borders on the edge of safety, I think, in terms of maybe starting a fire.
Yeah.
And and it goes on for a while, like the entire duration of the happy birthday song. So
it's like in the news, the one of these little places burns down, and people go, "Oh
burns
yeah,
down. It was probably
figures.
the
It's a birthday
firecracker, yeah, birthday cake. But anyway, it was quite fun. We had a good time that evening. The following morning was Saturday morning, and one of my very dear friends who I went to medical school with was running her first half marathon down in Greenville. So as we were having birthday celebration, my brother and I decided that, hey, we're not running this time around. Maybe we should go spectate this half marathon. So we left the restaurant, drove to the nearby Walmart, grabbed a bunch of 44-cent poster board, made some really cheesy, high quality artwork posters.
Mhm.
And basically drove out to like the halfway point of where the turnaround was for the half marathon, and surprised her.
Did she love it?
And it was great. She definitely saw us, and we got a quick selfie, and
Great.
she had a great race. She trained hard for it and finished, and it's an immediate personal best time, so can only continue to work on it from here. So she did great. And then basically we just drove there, stayed until we saw our friend go past us. There was a full marathon occurring as well, and the fastest runners were not too far behind her, coming back the other direction because they started earlier. So we cheered on a few of them and then drove back home. And then I spent the rest of the day, this is super exciting, watching the Ironman Men's World Championship live from Kona, which was a great race. So I had stuff to do around the house. It was a beautiful day. I just opened up all the windows and some of the doors and turned on fans and let the outside in and watch that race.
It's a lot easier to watch other people doing it than actually doing it yourself.
They're a lot faster than me too. So,
So I'm thinking possible title idea: cheesy, high quality artwork.
Oh, love
perfect.
Yeah,
I can send you. I think we threw away this. Actually, they might still be in my brother's car. But so just as a quick example, so a lot of times you'll go to marathons and you'll see people holding signs that say like tap to power up, and they've drawn like the Super Mario Brothers little mushroom on the side because normally that gives you like extra speed and energy. So I pulled up a picture of what that looked like and drew it on my poster board, and my brother drew one like a mushroom from memory, and it really just looked like something that might be like a hallucinogenic. I'm like, I don't think that's going to give these runners more speed or power. They're just going to like start tasting colors and things on their way back.
Look at that and go, what the heck is that?
So we had fun. We had a good time.
Sounds like fun, yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like fun.
It is fun to spectate a race instead of actually run it every once in a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Neil says, you're in a different campground, Jeff. I guess, yeah. That was another thing to add to all the amazing things that I did over the weekend. Was I switched campgrounds, so I'm now back in Shady Grove.
Neil also has another comment here, Jeff.
Is this what a sober show looks like? New campground, Jeff. I guess I only did half of that. Not the full comment. Yes, this is what a sober show looks like, Neil. It's not good. It's not pretty. All right.
Okay, guess
Yeah.
we're going to hit some news now.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the cover art, and we're not going to
Nope.
talk about
Hopefully,
the
we're
coffee
moving on
fund.
to feedback.
Yeah,
are.
that's what I mean.
We're not going
feedback.
back to news.
Yeah, feedback.
Even Liz is struggling. She's like,
Yeah,
more
I'm
news,
struggling.
more news.
No.
We're going
Feedback.
to try to cover a lot of feedback on this show number 637. So okay, here we go.
Captain, incoming message.
Just not in the groove, man. All right. I'm thinking, which one shall we start with? Should we do the Bob Hoover thing?
Are we just going in order? Are these for all of these for just us, or are these to
No,
be
they're just
split up
in
with?
random order, and
just dumping as much as I can in here.
and she's
and
just
then
dumping
you
the
can-
crap in there.
I didn't say crap.
No, you didn't. That was my adjective. Okay.
Let's do the Bob Hoover one.
Actually, that's
good.
a noun, not an adjective. Sorry. Bob Hoover. Okay, let's do this. This is from Sam Bolog in Los Angeles. And he asks, how did the water not spill? He sent us a video from Instagram. And he said, hello, in this video, the pilot does a roll without spilling a glass of water on the dashboard. Is this possible? And if so, can you explain why? And so should I play both of them, I guess?
Sure.
Okay, so the video from Instagram that Sam sent us is going to play right now.
The Aerobat has very responsive ailerons. I'll demonstrate an aileron roll to show you exactly what I mean. First, we lower the nose through the horizon to 130 miles an hour, ease back on the wheel, nose slightly above the horizon, full aileron, completely around, completing the aileron roll. It's a very comfortable maneuver to ride through. I'll demonstrate by putting a glass of water on the center of the instrument panel and do exactly the same maneuver without spilling a drop of water, I hope. Now we're easing the nose up, full aileron, across the top. Now we're back to straight and level flight.
And now we're sticking their finger in the water.
On a loop, we simply lower the nose
Gotta prove it's
below
real
the
water.
horizon to 130 miles an hour.
Uh-huh.
Gently ease back on the wheel, staying perfectly lined up with the section lines, looking out to the side, picking up the horizon. Across the top, gradually reducing the power.
Look at
Again,
that cow.
staying lined up with the section lines.
Okay. Beautiful music.
Yeah.
And I guess the first part of this that we've already covered is what he was asking about. How is it that the glass of water did not spill? Well, because you just keep one positive G force, like what we're all experiencing here on Earth, on the aircraft at all times during the maneuver. And if you're smooth and you know what you're doing, you get that result. Probably the person that best demonstrated this phenomena would be would be the heroic and legendary Bob Hoover. And so we're going to take a look at
Bob Hoover.
the late Bob Hoover. Yes. Amazing pilot. All right. Some more great music.
Here's something that's different.
Oh, yeah.
Bob demonstrates the ease of handling the Shrike by means of a glass of ice.
Don't you love the music?
I wish we still put music like this into like our, promotional educational videos. Now it's so bland and boring. I would 100% like pay attention to these things a lot better.
I know.
And,
It's just,
I'm thinking of like work training videos. Like if they could just insert some of this music in the background while they're talking about very mundane things, I'd be very engaged.
well, we'll have to somehow encompass that in our show. Okay. We'll work on that. Okay. Here we go.
Here's something that's different.
Okay.
Bob
This music.
demonstrates the ease of handling the Shrike by means of a glass of iced tea.
Kind of way I feel
He
when
sets
I've
it in
had too much to
place.
drink.
And then performs a barrel roll without even
barrel
tilting
roll.
the liquid in the glass,
Wow.
let alone spilling.
See now. Barrel rolls.
Then Bob decides that if you can do that, why not pour
Why
a
not?
glass of tea during a roll?
Sure.
And he does. All this to demonstrate how smoothly the Shrike Commander handles.
Nice.
Now, with both engines shut down, sheer courage and a good airplane is the name of this game.
We get even more crazy. All right, so it continues, this video, which we'll have a link to in the show notes. If you've never seen this demonstration in the Shrike Commander by Bob Hoover, it's just amazing. The guy is just has amazing flying skills. But I just wanted to say that a lot of times, to kind of prove the smoothness of our flight operation, when we're coming into land, like at LaGuardia or Kennedy or San Francisco International, whatever, we actually sometimes do that. We have the glass and we take the pitcher of iced tea and we pour it as we're flying the airplane and landing.
You do a barrel roll?
Well, we don't do the barrel roll because that's
On
sometimes
short final. Barrel roll to short final to landing. And there's like ice skating judges on the side,
Yes.
They can give you a score on 0 to 10 scale.
5.8.
Sometimes we don't really do it. Well, I don't know. There have been times where we actually purposely do this, but the times that it's happened to me more often than not, where I forgot that
accidental barrel rolls.
Well, no, it has nothing to do with aerobatics. But like putting like an open bottle of water on the seat, like the jump seat or the side panel.
A bottle of liquor?
Yeah, not liquor, liquid. Like water. And then you land.
It happens to be a lot too.
And
like
then as you've completed your landing roll and you're pulling off onto the taxiway and you look down and you go, that was a pretty smooth landing because it's sitting there just all nice and pretty like. Hasn't spilled a drop.
So just explain it in a little more. I know you said about keeping the G-forces on, but just explain it a little bit in exactly what's keeping the water in there.
All right. Go ahead, Steph.
Man, I'm just gonna say that I never really took physics in school. However, actually I did, but it was a long time ago and I didn't really care for
It's sort of like centrifugal
physics.
force or something, isn't it?
It's not the same as centripetal force. It is you're just keeping that constant 1G of force on what you're feeling as both the passenger in the airplane and anything else that's also in the airplane. So the way that you're actually designing and doing the maneuver, it's going to feel like you're just seated in the airplane normally the whole time. Now that is a combination of, and someone else will probably say this, write in or send us audio feedback to correct me, but it's the way that you're performing the maneuver. So the way that you're going to apply back pressure in addition to the actual roll to maintain that sense of 1G. You can do that with the aerodynamic forces to keep that. You can do the opposite too. If you pitch up and then basically quickly release that force forward or downwards, you're going to create a negative G scenario, and everyone in the back is going to come up off their seat or feel light in the seat for just a moment.
And the water will come flying out, right?
The water will definitely spill out of your glass in that situation. And there's actually a really cute video of someone in a single engine, probably 172, with their dog in the back seat, and they do that maneuver where they pitch up and then quickly reverse that force. And the poor dog comes off of the back seat and just has this look of like,
well, the one that I remember, it may have been a different one. The dog actually looks like he's like swimming, like his paws are doing the swimming motion, like, I'm floating. I don't know what this is that's happening here. It feels like I'm in water, but I'm not wet.
That's great.
So you're flying along, Sam, in your airliner flight, and you're enjoying your glass of Topo Chico. And it's not flying out of the glass. And when you're pouring it into your mouth. It's not going all over your shirt. Well, it might be for you. I don't know. Maybe you're uncoordinated.
He's got a drinking problem.
Yeah, that could be a drinking problem. So that's all the forces are in equal amounts. So you have the weight of gravity pulling the airplane down, but then you have the lift produced by the wings countering that force. So they're in equal degrees of force. And the same thing with the moving forward and the drag. So the thrust and the drag are kind of in equilibrium. So the being coordinated when you're doing these aerobatic maneuvers is very, very important. In other words, putting in rudder to counteract any uncoordinated movement of the tail, skidding or sliding or whatever. And what's the opposite of skidding in aviation?
Slipping.
Slipping, yeah, slipping. That's it. Yeah, slipping and skidding. During watching this video of the aileron roll and the barrel roll, so when you are upside down and the water is still staying in the glass at 1G, the pilot is maneuvering the airplane, so there is that constant 1G. If you looked at the airplane from outside of it, you have the force of gravity plus the 1G of force that the pilot is producing on the airplane to keep everything in equilibrium. So the airplane is actually falling down in that phase of the maneuver a lot faster than it was when it was going up, if that makes any sense.
It's not that the airplane just does this corkscrew in if you drew like a box of space around it. There's going to be vertical and horizontal travel in order to maintain that 1G of perceived
and a lot more
gravity,
negative altitude. There's going to be more altitude loss. Now, if you wanted to reduce the amount of altitude loss in a maneuver like an aileron roll or whatever, then you would kind of, as Steph mentioned before, like by pushing the stick forward or unloading the airplane a little bit, and so you have less than 1G. You can prevent the loss of altitude, but your little glass of iced tea or water or whatever it is not going to stay there. It's going to fall up, if that makes any sense. Anyway, that's the ascent, the basic.
Physics is fun.
Yeah, physics, aerodynamics, that kind of thing.
PHUN. Fun.
Yeah.
Tim Van Ram has a comment, two comments actually.
Well, Tim Van Ram says, don't try that on a bumpy road in the RV. Yeah, don't worry. And then he also says there's actually an item sold for vehicles that keeps your beer from spilling when on a rough road. Oh, cool.
I don't think it's supposed to be used for that particular beverage, Tim.
Well, why not? It works.
Put your soda in there.
It's called a bar buoy, and it mounts on gimbals to keep the beer in the container as it swings, or your liquid beverage of choice.
Yes, your water, of course.
Your water, your Coca-Cola.
Soda.
Yeah, your soda. It's all about choices. Make good choices, Tim. Make good choices. All right.
I would say we go down to number 5. There's a video, Texas and LaShock said.
Another video? Damn it. Okay.
The Endeavor. Number 5.
Hey, I'm
just like the unfiltered frustration.
Why do we have so many darn videos?
Because we live in this age of technology where everybody has. I mean, all we do is send videos to each other anymore.
I want to see what.
This is all I do on Instagram. I want to see
Jeff jump through the hoops to get these darn videos played on
4 o'clock in the morning while my neighbor's dog is barking, keeping me awake.
Okay, what are we doing? What video? The Space Shuttle
Number
Endeavor?
5, Endeavor.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on now to this from Texas and LaShock. And he says, greetings, Captain Jeff and APG crew. You might recall a while back I sent in a video about how the Space Shuttle Endeavor was going to be displayed in her launch configuration. Yeah, I remember that. And just now I found a video that shows a time lapse of that process. It doesn't have any talking, just generic background music. I bet it's not as great as the music we just played in the previous 2 videos.
I think we should edit it and put in some of that fun 1950s, 70s music.
But it's still interesting to watch, so I thought I'd share it. It's an impressive sight. As you can see, some workers silhouetted against the lights, which gives it a nice sense of scale. That's all I had today. Clear skies. This is the Texas and LaShock signing off. All right, so we're going to play said video right now and listen to whatever music that they've decided to put to it. Ooh.
All right, it's good music.
Yeah. I like it. Okay, so let's see. Initial horizontal lift of Endeavour is underway, and a rotation to the vertical has begun. And they're putting oh yeah, it's huge when you see the size of the humans up against that thing. Everybody's moving really, really fast. The space shuttle itself is covered in plastic wrap, looks like heavy-duty plastic wrap. Shrink wrap, yeah, white shrink wrap. And they're putting it into position up against the fuel tank and the dry rocket propellant boosters. And they're just about finished. They almost have it there, and looks like they've nailed the position.
Oh, the mating process will continue throughout the night and morning.
Oh, wow. Well, that's for after hours.
That was we didn't get to watch. They just abruptly ended the video there, and I'm disappointed.
Lasts for 4 hours. You got to talk to your doctor or go to the emergency room.
I think so. Yeah. It starts with a P, I think, right, Steph? The condition, the 4 hours.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I thought you knew the name for that. You mentioned that fancy medical term for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. There we go. Yeah, that's a P, right?
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted me to actually say.
Yeah, I want you to say it.
Okay.
Say it.
Hey.
All right.
Neil's saying that music in your voice, Jeff, would really put people to sleep.
I know. I almost fell asleep myself. Okay. Thanks, Neil. Okay. I know you mean it in a nice way.
Number 6.
Number
Greg
6.
Peterson?
Yeah, let's hear from Greg Peterson, who used to work for that big-ass fan company. He no longer does. He works for an aviation engine manufacturer, but he's still one of our big-ass fans.
Yep.
All right. Hearing the story of the mouse on the KLM flight and the passenger tucking his pants into his socks so the mouse would, so the mouse wouldn't crawl up his leg, I think is what he means, reminded me of a story from my days at Big Ass Fans. We had just moved into our new building, the one Jeff and Nick toured when they stopped on the way to Oshkosh. And we had a former local police officer that was working for us as a CAD technician. I was early one morning, before the workday had really gotten started, and all of a sudden, he started screaming like a little girl. You could hear him all over the office. So the few of us that were there came scrambling over to see what in God's name had gotten him so excited. Turns out a mouse had crawled up the leg of his pants. He was already a little jumpy from his days as a cop. I don't think he was ever the same after that. Of course, the rest of us capitalized on the situation, and we would leave toy mice in and around his desk all the time until he was laid off in a reduction of force a few years later. I heard it was actually a psych
break.
Psychological
break.
Just one of those ways you can always find an aviation connection. I hope everyone is doing well. It was a stretch, Greg, a very large stretch to aviation. Keep up the good work. I look forward to the show every week. In Thrust We Trust, Greg Peterson. Greg, yeah, we miss hearing from you, but I'm glad you're still out there listening. And one of these days, I'm going to visit your new place up there in southern Ohio. And I think he even has a pad with connections.
For you.
Yeah.
So I have a story unrelated to aviation. However, it's related to Greg's story, and it ties back to the getting to know us.
Oh.
So just briefly, speaking of things in people's pants that they didn't want to have get in there.
Oh, well, baby.
We back to the P word.
Well, this has to do with seafood or things that live in the sea. So I was mentioning it was my youngest brother's, his birthday, and his choice was seafood. But it reminded me of the time when we were vacationing in Texas on the Gulf of Mexico, and a storm had recently gone by, and a bunch of jellyfish, kind of just like the little, moon jellies that are kind of harmless and don't really sting a whole bunch, they were just everywhere. Like people were, kids were picking them up and like tossing them back and forth with each other and stuff like that. We were out there swimming, and all of a sudden, same thing. My little brother like comes up on a sandbar, just like screaming and high pitched, like, ah! And just he was on the sandbar and proceeds to just take off his swim trunks and dump a jellyfish out of the swim trunks.
At this point, you really don't care.
He was quite young at the time. It was very funny, and we have never let him live that down either. But interesting that he wanted to have seafood for his birthday dinner. So.
Did it get brought up at dinner?
It did not, actually, and I'm disappointed that we did not bring that up. But I'm going to bring it up anyway soon.
Good.
With him. Yeah.
Very good.
Is that a jellyfish in your pants, or you're just happy to? I guess you wouldn't
Or
be
do you
happy.
just want to take your swim trunks off?
You just want.
Well, so I should preface this with we were all like we were all competitive swimmers, so he was actually wearing like his racing Speedo underneath the swim trunks,
gotcha.
so he was not like in the nude.
He was prepared for the trunk removal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Interesting.
Love it. Another item from Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, so we're continuing with Mr. Greg Peterson. He says the subject of his feedback is flight safety, and we're all about flight safety here on the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
Oh yeah.
So he says the captain at the end of this video shares a striking resemblance to a certain retired airline captain we all know and love. Okay, I guess we need to play this to see what he's talking
Captain
about.
Nick.
It must be. It's got to be. Okay, CNH flight
We're going
safety.
to need you to power down before takeoff. Thank you.
Cyanide and happiness, for those who don't know.
Welcome aboard Magic Airlines. This is your captain speaking. If you look
The
down the
voice is
aisle,
yours,
you'll
too.
see Cindy, who will be demonstrating for you the safety features we have on board your flight.
Emergency exits can be found at the front and rear of the plane. Please turn off all electronic devices during this time until it is safe. In case of an emergency, an oxygen mask will dispense from your overhead. To inflate your life preserver, pull on these doohickeys here. That ought to do it. Magic Airlines appreciates your attention. Thank you.
All right, folks, buckle up. I hope you paid attention to our safety features on today's flight because we're going to take a little pop quiz.
The airplane goes off the runway into the water. Water is entering the aircraft. Lots of screaming,
and
obviously.
Paid any attention.
People are doing everything wrong. Of course, and the airplane's starting to sink into the water. Sully!
There's the captain. Now
There's the
stop it.
captain.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So he's grading the
There he is.
the response by the passengers, and he gave it a D-, which I think was generous.
Yeah, and he was not
fair.
very happy. I think it was definitely
that
a
captain
fail.
does bear a resemblance to somebody.
Yeah, well, to Sully
Very-
Sullenberger, I think.
Yeah, it's that mustache.
So look,
Also
see,
a retired airline captain.
yeah, he's a retired airline captain. Look at this. I mean, I never was in this situation with an airplane in the water. And so I don't think it's me. I think he means Sully, right?
Right.
So Cyanide and Happiness has been around for a long time, and this is actually a fairly old video. I have not seen it in years, and it's still just as funny as the first time I saw it many years ago. Thank you for sharing that again, Greg.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen it, please take the time to either go to the link in the show notes and watch it, or go to the YouTube video as we and cue it up to where we are right now and watch it. It's
Pretty funny.
It's worth it. It's funny.
I love the one where, she was like doing that very monotone safety briefing, and the guy, like, his eyes start getting heavy and then they
Fell
close
asleep.
and then he kind of, falls asleep and hits his head against the
The
sidewall.
window.
But I'm thinking that must be what it's like when people listen to our show when I'm talking.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Okay.
If anybody's injured themselves.
Liz was a little too quick with the affirmative response to what you were wondering about.
Well, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. All right.
Number
What next,
8,
lady?
Brian from Katy, Texas.
Okay, Brian from Katy, Texas. All right. He says, I found this interesting and the comment funny. Okay, so it's like a screenshot of something from his phone, I think. And the looks like something in one of the social medias, maybe X.
Right.
Can't tell.
And
but
it's a meteorologist.
A meteorologist, Damon Lane. And so he's has a picture, a radar, some radar imagery, and then the flight
this is when
path.
Helene was coming ashore there.
Was this Helene?
Milton.
Oh, it's
Milton.
Is it
Yeah, Milton.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, because Helene was a little bit further north. So Hurricane Milton is making is coming on shore, and there's with a flight path trace, or what do we call that?
This is FlightAware, so it's got the
FlightAware.
track from this United Airlines flight. Was it 1956?
Yeah.
Boeing 737-900, if you're interested. Departed Fort Lauderdale and was going to Houston Intercontinental. And apparently, this meteorologist is imagining what ATC told this pilot in order to get around the storm. He says, fly north, and when the rain stops, turn left. And that's exactly what it looks like happened here, because they took off out of Fort Lauderdale. The storm is approaching the west coast of Florida. It hasn't quite gotten too much to the east coast yet. Right up the Atlantic coast, basically to the top of the Panhandle, and 90-degree left turn, and continued on to Texas.
That's exactly what I would have done.
Flying.
Yeah, off of Fort Lauderdale and out over the Atlantic, and had to do north like you're going to New York until the rain stops, and then hang a left. And I've done that kind of maneuver several times in my career, flying out of Lauderdale and Miami and West Palm. And this looks like this radar shot looks like the time where the all those really nasty tornadoes were being spun off the outer bands of the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
probably not something you want to fly through.
No. All right. Yeah, that was good. Thank you, Brian.
You got half an hour left, guys. Half an hour left.
All right. We can knock several more out, I'm sure. Robert Thompson sent us this, and I'm surprised he didn't put Robert. Oh, he did. Robert Tucker. So Robert is from or lives in Tucker, Georgia. And he says, inflatable autopilot is back again. Of course, I think, Robert, you spelled it wrong. It should be OTTO, right? Autopilot. So this is, again, from a social media post, Airplanes and Coffee, Matt Herring. The autopilot is a little sketchy in this airplane. Kept wanting me to manually inflate it. Got coffee with him after the flight, though. And, of course, there's the inflatable autopilot from the movie Airplane, ! Very good. That's cute.
Very cute.
Shall we continue with audio feedback from Frank? All right, let's see. Hopefully this will play. Let's see. Here we go.
Hi, Captain Jeff. My name is Frank. My wife and I are traveling to Milan from Los Angeles today, and we're here at JFK waiting to take off on our second leg of the flight. My wife asked me a question I thought I'd pass along to you and your team to get an answer, and that is, when you're up at altitude, are you able to see the northern lights? Recently in Los Angeles, last week, there was some sort of atmospheric condition where people in our local mountains up at like Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead were able to see the northern lights. Anyway, love the podcast. Look forward to hearing your answer. Take care.
Well, thanks, Frank. Good question regarding the Aurora Borealis. I guess, it's really not funny, but the only time that I have ever seen, personally, the Northern Lights have been when I've been in an airplane. and it really, I'm not sure it really had to do with the height above the Earth that I was. It was where I was, where my latitude on the globe was, and the times that I have seen it have been at pretty high latitudes, like up around Alaska, that kind of
and no clouds. You're up at high altitude.
No, that does help. Yeah, not having clouds if you're above the clouds or you're flying on a cloudless night. definitely helps to be able to see
I was
them.
going to share a recent photo of mine because not too long ago we had some of those very strong, what do they call them, solar storms, solar flares, where basically that's very energizing for the auroras. And if you're in the right place, then it can make it visible much farther south, so lower latitudes than normal. And I happened to be on a flight to Chicago for the Chicago Marathon during one of those events. And I kind of kept looking. And you could tell that there was like a haze in the sky that shouldn't normally be there, but it didn't really have a lot of the bright color as we were traveling from south to north. But I happened to turn around and look behind me as we were on approach to O'Hare. So basically we were landing to the west. I don't know which runway we landed on, but so coming over the city basically, and I turned around and looked out the window behind me and I could see actually the border of the red and green. So I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture of it, and my brother was sitting in the seat behind me and I was like, hey, look out the window. This is really cool. I'm going to try and share it because it turned out really well. And this is about how it looked to the naked eye. So let's see.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, that was super cool. And not a very high altitude there, but it was a strong enough aurora that we were able to see it at that latitude.
Seeing the engine and the wing too is pretty cool.
Yeah, and is that Lake Michigan in the background, I guess?
That is Lake Michigan in the background. That is downtown Chicago,
nice.
The lakefront.
That's a great
That was really
photo.
pretty. Yeah, it turned out really well.
It looks like one of those popsicles, those rainbow-colored popsicles sticking up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like the red, white, and blue ones, kind of.
Yeah,
exactly. So
sometimes they're like in shape of a rocket or whatever, I think. I don't know, maybe.
I know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I do. But anyway, I thought that
that's
was
great.
funny.
And they say that the phones are able to pick it up.
It turns out a little better.
Yeah, can kind of pick it apart a little bit.
But this was
better.
actually because I took a few other photos during the flight where it would really pick up the green, but like my eye had a hard time detecting the green in the sky. When the red appeared, I could absolutely see the red, and it made the green more visible to my eye, like just a contrast, I guess. So that's actually pretty close to how it appeared. So
fabulous.
Very cool.
Anyway. All right.
Okay. All right. This is from Texas Charlie. Not Texas and LaShock, but Texas Charlie. In case you might be having a tough day, I'm sending you this just for the fun of it. I thought it might make you smile. And it did, Texas Charlie. And now we're going to try to make everybody else smile. And again, this is a video. You'll hear the audio, but you should probably look in the show notes to watch the whole thing. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, can I get a quarter pounder with cheese, fries, medium Coke, and an apple pie?
All right, that's on a JetBlue airplane. Looks like an Airbus 320, I think. Or I guess I don't know. I'm not sure.
Maybe,
but,
probably.
Yeah.
Sure. Sounds great.
And so is the front cockpit window on the captain's side. He opens it up and he is like he's going through a McDonald's drive-through or whatever, and placing his order.
Instead of a
they have air stairs.
Yeah, it's not a jet bridge. There's air stairs, so it's easier to get that video. And
that was great.
View.
Loved it.
Okay. Thank you, Texas Charlie. It definitely made us smile. Let's see. Dawn sent us this. Oh, we were talking about fatigue on the last episode.
Several episodes ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we just I guess we've been talking about fatigue for several different
yes,
incidents.
You're right. We did talk about the SFO thing, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he writes in, and I believe he is a BizJet pilot. And because at some point in here, he talks about in a max endurance business jet that he uses this. Excuse me. Dear friends, this is the most meaningful risk identification tool I've ever been exposed to. The key to its use, number one, the crew's start time relative to the crew time zone adjusted circadian rhythm is more powerful than A, the total duty day length, B, the number of flight legs, and C, the total flight hours. You build breaks in duty to allow the auto sleep function to assign effective rest. Is this an actual, like an app, I think, that you have on your...
I was wondering if there's...
I don't see
Yeah,
that.
it's called the Aviation Fatigue Meter.
Okay.
You get a one-page color PDF with I guess there's a...
Okay. One-page color PDF with an arcing line. If that line goes into the red here. Okay.
Continue.
Are you going to do a search on the App Store for Aviation Fatigue Meter?
Something, I think it's for purchase, but
okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well...
there's a link to the website for it at the bottom of this feedback, so... people can...
Yes, they're trying to sell it. It's a company called Pulsar Informatics.
Okay, Pulsar Informatics is the name of the company, I guess, that makes this software. And again, I'm assuming it probably plays on some kind of a tablet device, like an EFB or something. Okay, so you put all these parameters in. Let's see, you build breaks in duty to allow the auto sleep function to assign effective rest. If you build a break in duty for, say, 10 hours in your afternoon, the auto sleep function does not allow you to lie and may assign you only 1.8 or 2.0 hours of effective rest. Software knows you will not effectively sleep in the middle of your normal day. 3, I was blown away to learn even a one-leg flight may not be within limits. Example, if I depart Los Angeles for Hawaii at 2300 LA local time, and I am LA time zone adjusted circadian rhythm, the auto sleep function knows I got up at my normal time, had coffee, breakfast, and a normal day. I will be well into my normal sleep cycle and thus not safe to depart LA for Hawaii and must take off in the late afternoon or mid-evening. If the 2300 LA local time takeoff is an imperative, then you add a third pilot, copy and paste the original fatigue evaluation 3 times with the name of each pilot, give the most rested fatigue score pilot the left seat landing in Hawaii. I've used this program for many years now, conducting flights from LA to Europe, Hawaii, and Fiji in a 7+30, 7.5 max endurance business jet. The evaluations will allow you to depart LA at 10 a.m. local and land in Frankfurt, Germany at 7 a.m. local with 2 pilots. The idea is going with the wind and 2 flight legs, your time zone adjust circadian rhythm just knows when you are on a long normal day. Anyway, it goes into a little bit more detail here. And again, as we mentioned, the name of the app is Aviation Fatigue Meter. And we appreciate your anecdotal experience in managing fatigue risk, Dawn. That's pretty cool. Pulsar.
Yeah, so certainly if you're flying, Part 91 operations, essentially, and you don't have, you're not subject to the same, which was the FAR?
117.
Thank you, 117. Like for Part 121 or even 135 pilots, then this would be a good way to figure out, hey, is this a good idea for me to do this flight or not? Or how many additional pilots should there be? You said that, like one of the last paragraphs, the best part is you get a one-page color PDF with an arcing line. If that line goes into the red, you are, quote, flying drunk. And so that's the effect that fatigue can have on you. You perform the same way as if you have had several drinks and are drunk.
Pretty powerful to have a visual like that, though, too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, Don.
Can get the last 2 and then wrap it up. That'll be perfect.
All right. Let's do it. Number 14. This is from John. The cargo was more than just luggage. Hey, crew. My name's John, CFI here out of Kilo Mike Yankee Foxtrot, Montgomery. I guess that's Montgomery, Alabama. Did you look that up, Steph?
I don't know, but I can.
Thanks.
Got it here real quick.
And we like to call it the busiest aviation airport in the country. the busiest aviation airport in the country.
It's in California near San Diego.
I'm glad you looked that up.
Gibbs Executive in San Diego, California.
San Diego.
I thought it might have been because I think farther down he references Oceanside.
Oh, okay. Very good. Okay, so he says, I mean, look at where we are located and sandwiched between multiple airports and 4 flight schools. About to leave for frontier training in the next couple of months. Excellent.
Nice.
I guess that's initial training he's talking about. Yeah,
I would think so. Yeah.
Very cool. He says, anyway, check out this article. And so he gives us a link to Fox 5 San Diego. Yeah, that would have been a big clue, wouldn't it have been? If I'd thought to see that. Okay.
I saw that after you asked me, or after you asked me to look it up, but I was like, I'm going to look up anyway, just make sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we know where we are located geographically. He says, a flight club I used to belong to, CFI and student were on the schedule together for this flight that took place. Crazy, these things are taking place right under our fingertips. Thanks for all you do. Excited to fly an Airbus like Nick on the better side of the spectrum. All right. In an ATC voice, see ya. All right. So the article to which he is referencing, again from fox5sandiego.com, a plane lands on the 76 highway in Oceanside. Gabriel Bright and Troy Smith are arrested. Well, why? Why are they arrested? A single-engine Piper PA-28 plane landed on State Route 76 in Oceanside overnight, and narcotics were found on board, according to the Federal Aviation Administration and local police. In a statement published online, the FAA said that the plane hit the roadway around 1:45 a.m. near Canyon Drive.
And by hit, it looks like they landed safely on the roadway.
Yeah, they didn't hit too hard.
To be, no, touchdown would be.
Yeah. So I guess, that would be probably a better word to use. Let's see. After they had reported engine issues, 2 people were reportedly on board at the time of the incident and were not injured during the abrupt landing. I love the choice of adjectives these journalists
I mean,
use.
any landing on a road obviously is, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
All right. The Oceanside Police Department said officers responded to the area and made contact with the 2 individuals. A search of the plane was then conducted, and police discovered a large amount of narcotics inside the plane.
Whoops.
I'd like to, and then it's at this point, both occupants were arrested, taken into custody, blah, blah, blah. So this is the reason why they suspected there might be something going on. Responding officers noticed that Smith, the passenger of the plane, appeared to toss a backpack into a nearby ditch.
Just be real cool about it. It's the middle of the night. Don't let anybody see.
Yeah, just get rid of that.
Nothing to see here.
And this prompted a further search, which led authorities to discover around 1 kilo or 2.2 pounds of narcotics. The plane, which is believed to be a rental, was piloted by Bright. Police said, I guess he's not really that bright. Police said that they were traveling to Oceanside from Phoenix when they reported having engine trouble prior to the emergency landing. It's unknown if this was due to low fuel or other reasons. So the North County Narcotics Task Force is investigating the incident along with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the FAA. All right.
They got all the authorities involved on this one.
Yeah, they got the attention they didn't want, but did deserve.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least they survived. They didn't die.
Yeah, they didn't die. They're just going to be spending the rest of their lives in prison.
Live to serve their sentences.
They're kind of hoping now that they are wishing that they had died.
Boy, I bet they were so unhappy when that engine started to act up.
Well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
There we go. Good point. All right.
Okay,
door number 3, it's Officer O'Malley from the FBI, and you're busted. Well, you know what that's from?
That's let's make a deal. No, let's make a deal.
Yeah, but that was a skit.
Was it
in a comedy album? And people like Tim Van Ram and some other of our vintage in the live audience will probably pick up on what I was referring to. And if not, remind me and I'll tell you.
Okay.
All right, so let's continue
video,
then with this last video. So again,
well done, you guys.
yeah, we're clearing it out, Liz. Now you're going to start complaining we don't have enough feedback.
No, I got.
Oh, we got plenty.
She's got more in reserves. She's just this is just a tease.
Okay, so what am I looking for here in the pilots versus
mechanics or pilot.
Okay.
Singular.
Anybody got the answer yet? No.
Nope.
I'll tell you before we play this video. It's Cheech and Chong.
Oh, Cheech and Chong. Okay.
Yeah, and anyway, it's a lot of drug references to this.
I was going to say appropriate for the article that we were just reading.
That's why I thought of it. All right, let's put. Is there a way to set this up? This is from JP from Brickyard. A&P versus mechanics. No, I think it's pilots versus mechanics, right? Because A&Ps are mechanics.
The video says pilot versus mechanics.
Yeah.
I think he meant to say pilot versus mechanics, just,
JP. Brain fart. He says, I just wanted to share this video I saw on Instagram. It's a little silly. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we like silly.
We like silly.
Okay, it's a good way to wrap up the show today.
This whole show is silly. What are you talking about? Yeah. Okay, let's...
Look at the plane! We'll fix it. Fix it? How are you going to fix this? Grit, spin, and a whole lot of duct tape. We should be up and running in, say, 6 to 9 months. 69 months? No, 6 to 9 months. Kowalski, I say we use this setback to our advantage. Where do you pull that number out of, huh? I want you to reconfigure the design. That's great. So start reconfiguring. How do you estimate that? You, pretty boy. Why don't you and your friends dig a latrine? Maybe find water. Hold on a second. Who made you king of the plane wreck? Excuse me? Fine. You can be in charge. You fix the plane. Who gives you the authority to put me in charge? Okay, then. I'll remain in charge. Yeah, that's right. You will remain in charge. You and your little hippie friends can stay out of our hair. Correctamundo. Because I decided to. Good for you. Yeah. Well, guess what? This discussion isn't over.
All right. It bears a strong resemblance to, conversations had between pilots, the pretty boys, and the mechanics, the ones that really know what's happening and what's going on.
The ones that are
the ones that are carrying sharp knives.
I think that pilot would have locked a first officer out of a cockpit.
He may have, Liz. Yeah, that's true.
So we're not going to do the wrap up on this. We're waiting.
No, we're not going to do a wrap up.
No. Okay. All right.
I mean, we can barely do just regular news and feedback. Right. We can't do anything else. I'm sorry.
Listen, that was everything that we had today.
We gave it our best.
Best we could
All
manage.
Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, in just mere seconds, be introducing some more hosts, and we're going to continue with some more news and feedback. So stay tuned.
And I'm going to disappear.
All right.
Steffi's going to be doing busy stuff.
All right. Stay busy. Stay safe.
See everybody. All
right. Well, as I said, just in mere moments, you're going to be hearing some other voices that you didn't hear the last hour and a half or so. One of which is this man who is a ex-professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. Sorry I'm a bit late coming on the show. I seem to have missed the first half, but never mind. I'm sure we'll explain why later.
Okay, very good. And we also have, again, a guest host from his home studio in Hamburg. He's a retired blue and white A380, Boeing 737, A300, and A340 captain from Germany. It's Captain Steffen.
Hi, everybody. Very nice and very interesting to be back here on the show, especially on this very short notice. I hope I can do some contributing factors. If not, I'm just smiling around here. Okay, that's for you?
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's perfect. That's what we really want you for, is just to kind of see your wonderful smiling face.
Yeah, lovely.
In fact, go ahead and mute him, Liz, permanently, if you can. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's start with this, shall we? On part two. This is from the Aviation Herald. TUI Airways Boeing 737-800 registration GTAUD Golf Tango Alpha Whiskey Delta, performing flight 3551 from Corfu in Greece to Leeds in England, landed on Leeds runway 14 at about 1351 local time, but veered left off the runway in the final stages of the rollout and came to a stop on soft ground about 18 meters, 60 feet left of the runway edge and about 410 meters or 1,340 feet short of the runway end. There were no injuries. The aircraft sustained minor, if any, damage. The airline said, "We're aware of an incident at Leeds Bradford Airport this afternoon in which, upon landing, Flight 3551 slightly veered off while turning into the taxiway." It's really no big deal.
It's called minimizing.
There are no reported injuries, and our ground team are on hand to support passengers as they disembark. So the final report, this occurred on, let's see, when was the original? In 2023, October 20th of 2023. The final report, released by the AAIB on the 24th of October 2024, concluded the probable causes of the serious incident. I guess the AAIB thinks it's a serious incident. Not the airline didn't think so.
Light serious.
Yeah, okay, light serious. The initial phase of the landing roll was normal, with the aircraft touching down in the touchdown zone and meeting the target deceleration rate. The pilot flying disconnected the auto brake and then stowed the reverse thrust early in the landing rollout, and a constant deceleration was not maintained. Okay. Just basically stopped any kind of friction or any force to slow the airplane down, apparently. The deviation from the center line resulting from the strong crosswind from the left required more right rudder input than was applied in order to correct it. Okay. In other words, they didn't use enough rudder to keep it going straight down the runway. Additional use of differential braking to assist was also available, but apparently not used. There was an unusual juddering from the nose wheel reported by the crew, likely resulting from the failure of a nose wheel bearing. There was no mechanical defect identified by the investigation, which would have prevented the crew from applying the additional right rudder that was available to keep the aircraft on the runway. However, the crew's actions may have been influenced by the nose wheel juddering. Let's see. And then it goes into analysis here. Let's see. The aircraft touched down in the touchdown zone. Initial phase of the rollout was normal, with the aircraft reaching the expected deceleration rate. After the pilot flying canceled the auto brake, there was a period of 8 seconds with no wheel braking applied, during which the reverse thrust was also canceled. The guidance on braking in the operator, what's OMB stand for? Operating manual.
Menu, yeah.
What? Say that again, Steffen?
It's probably operating manual section B.
Oh, okay. That's what always throws me off. Okay, yes. Operating manual B. Yes. And the flight crew training manual stated that the pilot should maintain deceleration rate with constant or increasing brake pressure as required until stopped or desired taxi speed is reached. And, quote, do not release the brake pedal pressure until the airplane speed has been reduced to a safe taxi speed. The reduction in deceleration rate caused by disconnecting the auto brake and canceling reverse thrust on a wet runway, with a significant crosswind invalidated the landing performance calculated by the crew. However, there's no evidence that as a result the aircraft did not have sufficient stopping distance available or that the crew assessed this to be the case. Okay, so it goes and talks a little bit about the runway surface. And the fact that that area of the runway with tire deposits sometimes is associated with reverted rubber hydroplaning. However, the AAIB found no evidence of reverted rubber found on the main wheel or nose wheel tires, which requires locked wheels to occur, nor were there corresponding melted rubber deposits on the runway. The runway marks suggest that the surface temperature underneath all the tires was high enough to turn some of the water on the runway surface into steam, but not high enough, nor combined with locked wheels to cause rubber reversion. The aircraft deceleration rate and braking forces applied confirms that the aircraft was not friction limited at any point, and hydroplaning was not a contributory factor in the event. Okay, so this may have been something that they could kind of use as an excuse. Nose wheel bearing. It could not be confirmed when the nose wheel bearing began to fail, but it's likely that it suffered catastrophic failure during the rollout at Leeds and was contributory to the vibration through the rudder pedals as felt by the commander. The failure of the bearing did not prevent the nose wheel from rotating, nor did it affect the ability to steer the nose wheels. At speeds above 60 knots, the rudder is the primary method of yaw control. As the aircraft decelerates towards taxi speed, the nose wheel steering becomes the primary control. There was no evidence that the bearing's failure physically reduced or restricted the pilot's ability to control the aircraft in yaw. The pilot flying recalled the nose wheel judder increasing as he increased the right rudder pedal, which caused him to reduce the input. Both crew members recalled the judder as being significant and unusual, and the CVR recording contained a juddering/rattling sound during this period. There was no evidence of a physical restriction of the rudder pedal movement, or that the rudder position required to prevent the runway excursion was unobtainable. Okay, so are you kind of getting the gist of this thing here? Basically, the AIB is saying, yeah, they got some feeling of in the rudder pedals, because that's connected to the nose wheel steering, when the nose wheel assembly is connected to all that. So if the thing is doing the juddering, rattling, you're going to feel that in the rudder pedals, but it doesn't mean that the rudder itself, in the back on the tail, isn't still effective at the higher, above 60 knots. And they should have continued to use right rudder in this case with the crosswind to keep the airplane from, going off of the runway. And I don't know. That sounds pretty legit. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think there could have been an element of startle factor, or they were surprised by the noise, which the AIB then shoot down, because they say that startle factor is likely to have ranged between 100 milliseconds to 3 seconds, whereas the entire rollout took about 30 seconds. So there should have been plenty of time for them to recover from any startle factor and start reapplying the brakes and steering the airplane. And they said that it could have been surprise instead of a startle reflex. But they say pilots are trained to deal with non-normal and emergency events, and the aircraft deviation from the runway centerline may have been considered a challenging situation by the crew. But, I think they're suggesting that the crew should have been capable of dealing with the clattering nose wheel and obeyed their instinct to keep the airplane straight on the runway, because that was quite honestly the more immediate danger, was running off the side of the runway rather than having a clattering, noisy nose wheel. So yeah, I think the AIB are basically saying you've got to do number one job, which is fly the airplane, which in this case wasn't actually flying, but keeping the damn thing straight on the runway. They don't seem to give any explanation as to why they stopped braking and disengaged the thrust reverse. So I have no idea why the crew did that, or why the pilot flying did that. But so I don't know, putting it fairly in their laps, I'm afraid.
How long was this runway? I've missed that.
Let's just maybe I just I'm also maybe asking a stupid question, but I have to process the whole information from English now in my mind. So do I understand that they didn't make any corrections with the rudder to bring the aircraft back on the center line because they had these vibrations in the nose wheel or in the pedals? That's why they didn't touch it.
That's what I'm gathering.
What they're saying is that as they tried to move the rudder, the vibration from the nose wheel got worse.
Okay.
So they kind of stopped trying that, which I'm going, oh, okay, well, it's the only way you're going to get back to the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's because it's a very instinctive thing, of course, for pilot to press the rudder and where do you want to go. I mean, so that's like they had to really overcome their own instinct to keep the runway, to keep the airplane on the center line. That's very interesting. So I wonder how much the juddering was, that they feel endangered about it. That's very interesting.
Yes.
That they
Yeah,
didn't
I
do
don't
it.
know.
No.
And I mean, it was sufficient for them to hear it on the cockpit recorders. And it said it was a juddering, rattling sound. It obviously vibrated probably a bit. But, I mean, like I say, if you get deflated tires or just a badly balanced nose wheel, that can be pretty violent. I haven't had too many in civil aircraft, but I've had plenty of military airplanes, and they can shake the nose around so you can't even read the instrument panel. That's how violent they can be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop you flying the airplane, or shouldn't.
Perhaps
So,
perhaps the vibration was just so intense that they thought, the nose wheel, the entire assembly is going to collapse, and it could lead to something really catastrophic. I don't know. I mean, I'm with you, Captain Nick, that my priority would be to keep the airplane straight down the runway, not off the runway. But again, I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly how extreme or significant that juddering / rattling was. Okay, so the length of the runway, Liz is telling us, 7,382 feet. So, it's not a super long runway, but not extremely short either. So I was just wondering if it was like a very long runway, that perhaps the reason why they got off the brakes and stowed the reverse was because they needed to go all the way to the end of the runway to turn off to go to their terminal or whatever. But I don't know, 7,382 feet doesn't seem like an extreme amount of runway to do that.
But it's quite sufficient for a 7.3, and maybe that's the feeling, because they felt the deceleration was normal, and so they switched it off to do that. They started maybe putting in outer brake 3 or whatever, because the runway is wet, and they use a lot of reverse, and they thought, hey, the braking is good, everything is fine, and we don't need to go down there. So they disengaged the outer brake and let it roll, but then the juddering started. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's one thing which you could also do.
They did a calculation for their landing distance, and they didn't have a huge amount in hand. So I don't think they were, I don't think they had the feeling that they had lots of runway. I think they knew that they were landing on a relatively short runway compared with some, and they probably needed to keep going. So that's, for me, that's an unanswered question. Why they decided, or why the captain decided to stop braking and pull out the thrust reversers. Because
doesn't look like there are any turnoffs down at the end of the runway there either.
Yeah.
There's a dumbbell down there, so you can do a 180. But in fact, if anything, you'd be wanting to increase your braking, so you made that turn off to the left and didn't have to go right to the end and do a 180, which obviously takes a while.
Yeah, this kind of makes me kind of scratch my head why they got off the brakes.
It could be an explanation. I mean, if you see it back at the picture, there is an taxiway, and they wanted to go off to the right from their view, and I mean, it's only 300 meters after the taxiway, or less than 300 meters after the taxiway, when they went off in the grass. And maybe the problem started way before that, when they started to brake further down to slow themselves down for the taxiway. Could be a reason for them to do that, to slow down to get this taxiway, which is basically almost it's fairly down the runway, and I would say.
So you're saying that they would increase their braking to stop so they could make that exit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they switched off. They switched off everything and they let it roll in the middle of the runway, and then they decided, so now we need to go brake, because the braking action apparently is good. We started out with a strong brakes, strong reverse. They put in the maximum, which is probably also by the OMB recommended to do that. And then they said, hey, it's good. So we can switch it off, let it roll a bit, save some seconds. Stupid thing to do, but a lot of people do that. Save some seconds, getting taxiing a little bit faster. And then now we want to go brake. And then they start braking, and then it starts shaking. Or it started to turning. And then they got startled, and then the thing gets rolling. maybe.
There's an interesting paragraph which explains the type of action that would be needed to damage the nose wheel bearings sufficiently to cause their destruction, which is what happened. And it also goes along with some damage they found on the nose wheel. And if I can just read this section, they said the nose wheel tire damage is consistent with abrasion scrubbing from being turned to an angle nearly perpendicular to the direction of travel whilst the tires were rotating and in contact with the runway. So it seems to suggest that they've turned the nose wheel through a lot of degrees, 70, 80, whatever the maximum is. Also demonstrated by the runway marks left by the nose wheel tires. The angle of the nose wheels could only be achieved by use of the tiller rather than rudder pedal steering alone. And this corresponds with the commander's account of events. So this would seem to suggest that realizing that the airplane needs some extra turn, they don't say which direction, which is annoying because I don't know whether he was possibly trying to turn the airplane using the tiller at too high a speed to get off onto that taxiway, or whether he was using the tiller to counteract the drift of the aircraft off the left side of the runway. But I'm getting a funny feeling that he might have tried to use the tiller at too high a speed to make that very sharp corner, and that's what caused the problem with the nose wheel and possibly the exit of the runway. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I could tell an interesting story which happened to me. I was landing on Frankfurt Airport. The runway was slippery though. It was cut trees, snowing, and the usual nice winter stuff we have. We were landing, and auto brake, everything on, and we had also wind, and the aircraft was drifting to the side. And you know what to do when you have reverse on and everything on, and the aircraft is turning. So I immediately switched off to reverse, so it doesn't pull me over to the side. But I was still dragging over to the side. I switched off auto brake to keep the aircraft straight again, and it was keeping straight. But I was not yawing anymore. But I was still heading slowly to the edge of the runway. I using a rudder, and it didn't really help very much. And at the end, I was very slow. I slowly grabbed to the tiller, and I did that what he was, not this guy was doing, but I was finally able, with the tiller, I was able to get my aircraft back on the runway again. My heartbeat was also a little bit high at that point. And because it was the only remaining runway open at Frankfurt at that airport, because of the snow. And I was going back, and I was taxiing out, and it was the end of a 5-day rotation, and I was very happy.
Yeah. I bet. Well done for saving that. But this seems to suggest that the tiller was used and to an excessive angle, which caused scrubbing on the tires, left marks on the runway, and caused the failure of the bearings of the nose wheel. So
I don't know if you, Nick, when you were reading that, how far they estimate that the nose wheel was actually turned, like perpendicular. Yes. Because you were reading, you probably didn't see Steffen and my facial reaction or facial expressions, but we were both kind of going like, oh, that's not good at all. Yeah, that says something to airline pilots with that look on our face. It was very, very interesting. Yeah.
The steering angle of the tiller, wouldn't that be also recorded on the digital flight data recorder? I mean, this
think so.
It's a 737. Do they have those sort of things? That technology?
It's an 800. It's not.
I'm joking.
It's not that old.
You would have thought so, wouldn't you? You would have thought so, but they've got other physical evidence to indicate.
It's Boeing's fault.
Yeah. But it's not a MAX.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, at least it wasn't a MAX. Then, it would have been an easy investigation. It was a 737 MAX. That's the explanation. All right. Well, interesting one. That's for sure. Okay.
I'm sort of glad that we don't ever get these guys' names because I really don't want to know. I don't,
Right.
I don't want to
Yeah.
put a face to the name.
No,
and
I
go,
don't either.
Oh dear.
I don't want to, like, one of these days in a bar somewhere and,
Oh,
wherever
yes.
you're in the world, somebody comes up to me and says, yeah, you know that guy that you were, like, really dissing? That was me.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right.
sorry. May I buy you a beer?
Yes.
Or two?
Yeah, so you can pour it over my
Oh,
head.
yeah. Here, come outside with me. I need to show you something. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Second news item.
All right, this is this is also an interesting one.
God.
And Captain Nick, you're really going to need to help me with this one because I tried to scan through this, quickly, but
impossible.
yeah, I couldn't really. Well, anyway, yeah, we've talked about this incident several times over the years. This happened in May of 2016.
It's only taken them 8 years to get it out. That's pretty quick for the Egyptians.
And there was all kinds of issues early on, I recall, with various countries kind of fighting each other and investigatory agencies fighting against each other. And I think the Egyptian regulatory agency investigatory agency was basically trying to, say that the pilots didn't do anything wrong. And, and it may be that they didn't. But anyway, it seems like there was a lot of politics and other things
Just
going
refresh
on.
everybody on what the incident was.
All right. So the incident was an Egyptian or Egypt Airbus A320. They were flying over the Mediterranean on May 19th of 2016. There was some kind of a fire on board, and the aircraft ended up crashing into the Mediterranean. They were going from where? From like somewhere in France, I think, to down into the African continent. Do you have that information there, Liz? Okay, so she's going to do a quick research to see if she can recall exactly where they were.
Cairo.
From Cairo?
Cairo
Okay.
to
Cairo.
No, hang on.
That's where they were headed, I think, right? And they take from Paris, I think, maybe?
Yeah.
To Cairo?
Charles de Gaulle.
Charles de Gaulle.
Charles de Gaulle.
Very good,
Okay.
yeah.
Ooh, wow, what a memory. And anyway, so they they published a preliminary report, and now we finally have 6, 7, 8 years later, October 30th, 2024, just a couple of days ago, Egypt's Civil Aviation Authority released their final report, concluding the probable causes of the crash were, so what they basically talk about here are the contributing factors. The fire smoke event took place very quickly, and flight crew were disabled. Several aircraft systems failures. Explosion resulted in oxygen flow in the cockpit, which enriched the fire smoke. Interesting. Okay. The explosion resulted in oxygen flow in the cockpit. Okay. Anyway, so this report basically proposes 3 separate scenarios, but as we were discussing before we hit the record button, Nick, that it seems that all of them include the existence of an explosive package containing 2 explosive substances that was located near the forward galley area, which is just aft of the cockpit bulkhead. So up close to the front, close to the cockpit of the aircraft, which exploded. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think so. So they basically it could have been perhaps in the trolleys where it contained the food, or it might have been in the toilet dump there, but it's basically close to the rear cockpit bulkhead. And in the forward galley area, there was an explosion. And I think they mentioned they were aware that the explosive package contained 2 explosive substances, trinitrotoluene, TNT, and DNT. So I don't know what DNT is, never heard of that, but I'm assuming it's just another strong explosive. Dinitrotoluene, that's DNT.
Did you see in here how the oxygen system was triggered because of the
Yeah,
explosive?
they said the explosion probably resulted in the breaking of the oxygen line pipe. Now, Stefan, does the 320 have gaseous oxygen? So does it have oxygen bottles, or does it have chemical oxygen?
It has
for the
bottles.
crew.
For the crew, it has bottles.
Well, has bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're suggesting that I don't know whether the passengers have this or not, but there was obviously an oxygen line going to the cockpit that this damaged, the explosion damaged, and the oxygen helped feed the fire, basically.
Okay. Well, that's not a good thing.
No.
And the fact that the crew was incapacitated almost immediately, obviously, that's not a good thing either.
Is it now a dispute now? No, also I have to get it right. I'm sorry, I'm asking the simple questions now. That there are two reasons supported. The one of the explosion is supported by the Egypt government, and the French BAA supported by the reason that there was an oxygen leak and just smoking first officer. That's what I heard from the news. So I'm not rereading the report right now. I haven't read the report at all. So that's what I got from the news, that they're saying there are two opposing reasons in this event.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was part of the early on. There was this fight because the French were trying to blame it on the action of the first officer smoking in the cockpit, and that somehow caused a fire. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's not a unified or a consensus here at all. This is just the report from the Egyptian Civil Aviation Authority, and perhaps the French will come out with something that will completely, be contradictory to this conclusion from the
You're right.
Egypt.
I don't think there's even a consensus amongst the varying experts on this panel, on the Egyptian panel, because they have got 3 committees that form the actual investigation committee. They've got forensic expert, some kind of medical expert, and a pilot involved, and I don't think even they can come to a conclusion, a firm conclusion, which is why they present 3 possible scenarios. Now, to a certain extent, I think they're arguing just the order in which things occurred, but none of these scenarios include the first officer smoking.
Okay.
None of them. They all include a hissing sound, but they differ as to the timing of that hissing sound, as to whether it was before or after the explosion.
Could have been a snake.
So
snakes on a plane. There you go.
Well, if it was a cobra, that could work out. So they basically come along with the scenario number 3, which is the one that they go with, and they say the fire and smoke started outside the cockpit, so that would indicate that it wasn't the first officer smoking, and eventually fire and smoke propagated to the cockpit from the right-hand side. The explosion and the oxygen flow enriched the fire, which was the cause of the accident. This scenario clearly identifies the source of ignition. The heat energy generated by the explosion set fire to the aircraft components, including the forward galley and surrounding. Explosion in the galley area propagated to the cockpit, affecting the right-hand side oxygen system, and might have opened the first officer left oxygen box door, where the oxygen mask is situated, with the emergency knob set to emergency, leading to oxygen flow, resulting in the hissing sound. So, there's obviously a disagreement within the experts in the panel. And I think that's probably why they put all 3 scenarios, because normally you would come to a conclusion and you'd just give the answer. You wouldn't enter possible other conclusions. But I think they put it in because they couldn't come to a consensus. And they're saying, based on FDR and CVR correlation, the cockpit crew announced the fire 44 seconds prior to lavatory smoke warning and 90 seconds prior to the avionics smoke warning. So I'm surprised it was 90 seconds prior to avionics smoke. So that if you get fire in the cockpit, normally that gets into the avionics spray pretty quick because that's where the air exhausts and that's where the smoke sensor in the avionics spray is. So I would normally expect that to be quicker. But they say in order for the smoke to be dense enough to trigger the lav smoke warning, the lav door was closed. The smoke outside the door must go through the door grills, so that's why it took longer for that. Based on the CVR and the sequence, the cockpit door was closed at the beginning of the hissing sound, then it was opened, supported by the captain's order to close it. This suggests that the female cabin crew fled the cockpit. No evidence of firefighting activities inside the cockpit. This supports that the fire originated outside the cockpit. Well, not necessarily, but no call from the cabin to inform the cockpit crew of developing a situation outside the cockpit, indicating the fire smoke was sudden and strong and the cabin crew didn't have a chance to communicate. There's various factors here, but nothing really that, is conclusive, absolutely firm and conclusive. So I can understand possibly why they've come up with all these ideas, but it certainly seems like there's no suggestion of that the flight crew did anything wrong, and there's a strong suggestion that there was a bomb on board. Whether other agencies agree with them or not.
Yeah, there we go. That's the key, right? And the other thing, the three scenarios that you were mentioning, they did mention in the final report that the scenario number 1 and scenario number 2 were ruled out, and the third scenario was ruled in. So I think what they're trying to say is that third scenario that they've listed there was, in their opinion, what happened.
Yeah, I just find it odd that if they ruled out 2 scenarios, why put them in the report?
I don't know.
That just
it's almost like
odd.
Too defensive, maybe, like expecting that somebody's going to be like second guessing their conclusion.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah,
could be. Yes. It's just that I've read an awful lot of accident reports over the years, and I've never heard of possible scenarios that they ruled out being included, because all it does is add confusion and cast doubt on the final the final accepted cause. Liz says that's why they were explaining why it took them 8 years. Yes, I agree, Liz.
Maybe so.
May I just one last question, Piskov? I've heard, again, that the French BI did not find any traces of explosive.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The graphic that's being displayed on the video right now and will be included in the show notes are showing areas spread throughout the cabin where they found evidence of explosive material.
Including the cockpit.
I'm just wondering whether that is actually the locations or the people, because that's where a lot of the explosive material, it was attached to bodies. That was their seat numbers. But were the people sitting in those seats when the aircraft exploded? So perhaps they were all up getting some food, or they were going queued for the loo. It doesn't make it clear to me whether they were sitting in there, because that's a very odd distribution of people to have been contaminated by an explosive for an explosion that went off in the front galley.
Right, like what about all the other
seats? There's a bloke right
there?
Down there at the rear. One bloke right down at the back. How the hell did he get contaminated?
That's weird.
Yeah, so I don't understand that.
Okay, let's go to the Get to Know Us for part 2, and just as soon as I can find the little button I'm supposed to push. Here it is. Yay. Getting to Know Us. Time of the show, the second time in this show, where we get to know what's been happening with the hosts between appearances. And the reason why I state it that way is because Steffen was with us, I don't know, maybe, 6 weeks ago? Something like that.
So, the last 6 weeks I was doing a little bit traveling. I was traveling to Munich. I recall being a big concert. Maybe that's what.
Oh, yeah.
I sent you pictures
Right.
from Adele's concert.
Yes.
Small concert, only 70,000 people there. So I felt very private, yes. And
you're a VIP, obviously, if you're one of 70,000.
I was a VIP, and they had huge screens, so I was able to see Adele in 200 meters distance. It was a very impressive concert, and the most impressive thing is about that this whole concert, it was, I think, 10 concerts, and it was purposely built for her, open air concert, and it was 2 weeks later, it was dismantled again, the whole area.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
And the reason I was told now that why they choose Munich for organizing a big event like that because
the beer is very good in Munich.
Yes, the beer is very good, but the guys in Munich they are very capable in organizing very huge events, like example the Oktoberfest.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that's why they choose Munich, because they can handle lots of people and kinds of and very.
That can make sense.
Yeah, that's why. And after that, I went to Vienna and for a small trip and I did some flying. And last weekend, I finished the season for power jumping at my power jumping base in Hartenholm Airport here. So no more power jumping for the winter until March. That's my story. So
what is power jumping?
A power
Para.
jumping.
Para.
Okay.
Parachute.
Gotcha.
Parachute.
Para. Okay.
Spring.
Okay, so you're a jumper dumper like Dr. Steph.
Yes, I think I told you.
Skydivers.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you do any jumping yourself, though, Steffen?
Why jump out of a perfect working airplane? I mean,
Exactly.
no.
We feel
Good
the
point.
same.
Yes, that's exactly the way I feel. But Steph, we cannot
I
convince.
did some bungee jumping a couple of years ago, and when I'm telling that the skydiving guys, they said, "Are you crazy? There's no parachute." I would never do that.
Interesting.
Hey, I have a question for you, Steffen. So you're located in Hamburg, which is in northern Germany, correct?
Yes, it is.
Now, the beer styles are a little bit different than the beer styles down in Bavaria, right?
Yes.
And what's your
we use
preference?
The tube type. The way they have looks more like a wine glass, you know.
Right.
They have a little down there, and then they open up like a tulip type. This is the beer glasses we use for PICS. Pilsner or whatever. Yeah.
I thought you said something else there for a second.
I thought you said piss, actually. And I'm thinking, why would you use that? I would want something that had a wider opening.
There's always a fighting between different breweries, and they call each other, of course, these words. But no.
Now, when you were down in Munich for the Adele concert, did you go and visit the Oktoberfest celebrations?
It was 4 weeks later, the Oktoberfest.
That wasn't very good timing.
Yeah, the Oktoberfest is called Oktoberfest because it starts in September.
Of course. Mid-September or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really quite understood that myself, but,
Weird.
I don't understand a lot of things.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
All right, so nice to have you on with us again, Steffen. And I'm kind of happy that your student, your flight student, ended up getting sick today, so that meant you were available for joining us today on short notice. And I do apologize for such short notice, but that's sometimes the way we work here. Matt, that's the way we work all the time, actually. Actually, it would be a lot worse if it weren't for Liz. She's pretty good at planning ahead. It's just for things like this, she has very little control of. I'm kind of a loose cannon. So anyway.
What's that Captain Nick been doing?
Captain Nick, what have you been up to, sir?
Well, I've had a busy week, which is kind of great. I suppose the biggest event was getting an opportunity to go and get myself assessed by an orthopedic surgeon to see if there's anything they can do to improve my leg function, which hasn't been great for the last sort of 6-9 months. So I took advantage of the fact that there is at the Robert Jones and Agnes Hunt Orthopedic Hospital, which is in Oswestry up near the Welsh border, there is a wing of that hospital which is called the Headley Court charity wing. Now Headley Court used to be a rehabilitation centre for military personnel who are trying to overcome some major injuries, and it's a famous place been around since World War II, and they eventually shut it down and integrated that service within the National Health Service here in the UK. But they named this, or the charity that comes from Headley Court, contributed towards the forming of this wing. Long story short, I was able to get an appointment up there pretty quickly because I'm a veteran. I just got my GP to refer me, and they are absolutely brilliant up there. They unfortunately, it's just lower limbs. So if you've got a back problem, or you've got an ear problem, this is not the people to go to. But if you do have lower limb issues, it's about the only one of these specialist veteran units there is in the entire country. Started and run by Lieutenant Colonel Carl Mayer, who I met, and he's a lovely guy.
Oh, the Mayer
Absolutely
Clinic.
Lovely. Yeah, yes. Yes, I know. That's more like mayonnaise clinic, isn't it? The Mayo
It is,
Clinic.
yeah.
Yes,
And the mustard clinic is nearby. It's not as famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, they my appointment was they got me into an x-ray beforehand, took a whole bunch of x-rays, and then barely any weight, and I was in to see the colonel. And he said, "Oh, your left knee's pretty shot. Your right knee's fine. Your hips, we would need an MRI to do a more detailed look at that. But you basically, at the moment, we can't see a joint replacement being on the cards, but your left knee's going to need one before long." And they said, because I was unable to be sure where the pain was originated, it's either my knees or my hips. They said, how about we give you an injection, one of these steroid injections into your knee, and then that will help isolate whether it's the knee or the hip. And then in 6 weeks' time, we'll ask you how you're getting on, and then we'll probably get you up for an MRI, which sounded fine. Except that I said, well, I've got the same problem on the other side. So which knee are we going to inject? And he goes, And I said, can't we do both? Anyway, he said, we don't normally do both. Just in the risk of something going wrong, we only want to wreck one knee and not both of them in one go. But he eventually kindly agreed. So I had second thoughts when I saw the size of the syringes, but I'm sure many people have gone through this. And they were horse needles, and they whack it straight into the knee, right into the joint, and then fill it full of liquid, which was amazingly pain-free. The colonel seems to know his stuff. Very impressed with him, and I'm now floating on cloud 9 because the knees feel great. Went for a 4-mile walk today, and they're feeling superb. So I'm waiting to see what symptoms develop as to what I say to him in 6 weeks' time when he calls me and asks me how I'm getting on. So that's an ongoing thing. So the only other thing that's happened was I did a little bit of dog photography. Now, there you go. That's either sky or shadow. I'm not quite sure which one, but Bob Judson, lovely old friend, ex-student of mine, who went to 2-star rank in the RAF, and now he had me on his podcast because he does a podcast about leadership called Leading for Life. So if you go to the website or onto a podcast app and go Leading 4 Life, you'll find it. And his website is leading4life.co.uk. You'll find out all about him. And he's a very clever chap, very well trained, and just there to give advice to people who in the field of leadership, which is superb. Anyway, he popped over. It's lovely to see him and his wife, Saab, and we took pictures of their dogs, 2 dogs. They're absolutely delightful. They're a mixture between a sort of Springer Cocker mixed with black Labradors. And what they've ended up with is like a perfect black Labrador, but about 2/3 the size. So it's a compact black Labrador with all the enthusiasm and madness of Springer Spaniels, diving around all over the place, amazingly sensitive noses, just want to sniff and hooligan around. Absolutely brilliant fun. And they're like twins, these two. They're super. So it was a pleasure to see him and take some pictures. My knees weren't quite as good back then. They hadn't got the injections. So as usual, I was getting onto my knees without any difficulty. And then I was like going, can someone help me up now?
Is there any way to get the like an IV of the cortisone fluid, just like constantly being pumped into your knees?
That be marvelous? Yeah, absolutely. A drip feed.
Yeah.
Yes. Or if they could put it in a wine bottle, that would be another way. If you could drink it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'd have the same effect though.
You were also busy doing some cover art, Nick.
Oh, golly, yes. And a cover art last week. We didn't have a lot of choice on. Really, this was the only suggestion we came up with, and it was closed FARP. And I treated that like it sounds. It's like doing a FARP in a lift. So you're in a closed area, but FARP
a lot of back pressure
stands for FARP apparently stands for Forward Arming and Refueling Point, and it was Sam's feedback when he was talking about trying to get the Marines to give him an underslung load, and they'd taken the fuel out the tanks, which was correct, but then they'd put it into jerry cans and thrown it inside, which kind of didn't do anything to reduce the weight. So they struggled to shift this load, and then they were trying to get to the refueling point because they were so short of fuel by that point, they discovered it closed. So we had a closed FARP, due accidental indigestion. Now, it was actually accidentally ingested, but I thought indigestion was better. And that was reference to the Air France 350 that blew the cargo containers into the Dreamliner.
Yes.
And they sucked one up into their engine, which didn't do a lot of good. They had the accidental ingestion. So, and the picture there is just a helicopter coming into a refueling point, and someone has dropped a very bad FARP because it's surrounded by green stuff.
And
yes,
there's the logo.
You've found the well done. Found the logo on the side of the aircraft, and you found the show number.
Is that it right there?
Yes, it is. It's exactly what it is. I went to a nice curly script and put 636, and so I put the 2 6s, making the top of that symbol like a flower, and then the 3 was at the bottom,
gotcha,
giving it what actually looks like a pair of round objects hanging off the bottom of something that's like a little fountain. So I don't know what army regiment that is. I don't know. Perhaps Sam knows.
It reminds me of a sheep, like a big sheep kind of horn, sheep horn or something like that. Ram's horn, yeah, that's it.
And I now finally, because I just Googled the word indigestion in German and know what you're talking about the whole time. Finally get it. Okay, that's what.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well done, Stephen. Sorry about that.
No, it's a
I should have
polite word.
explained it in German, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah. Ain't gonna happen.
Absolutely. There you go. That was cover art. So thank God for AI, because that would have taken me.
Box's comment about the dogs.
Must be Shadow Sky would be a blue dog. Oh, very good. Actually, funny enough, yes, they had blue harness on one and red on the other. And I have a feeling they named them Sky and Shadow because there is a British and French combined weapon that the Typhoon drops called a Sky Shadow, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So probably because Bob used to be a Typhoon pilot.
Well, makes sense. Jeff, what have you been doing since Tuesday?
Nothing.
Okay, that's fine.
No.
Let's go to Coffee Fun.
Actually, no, hang on. I'm just kidding. I've been doing stuff, a lot of driving back and forth from the lake to my church for singing quite a bit this week because the reason why we have a Halloween celebration every year is because that's All Hallows Eve, which is the evening before All Saints Day, which is what we did yesterday, and so that's a day of obligation in our church, and we had several masses, a couple of which I sang in. So a lot of doing the singing, and I'll continue to do that this weekend. But ran into some issues with administrative back-end kind of issues, not me personally back-end issues like the FARP, but the computer, the website back end, the RSS feed, the part of the mechanism that makes all this podcasting stuff work when you're using a traditional podcasting client software like, for instance, Apple Podcasts or Overcast or Pocket Casts or all these various podcast client software. And I know what this issue was. Let's see, episode 635, I believe, was the one where I left in some errant audio and
yes, for Nick's,
and Nick and
Plaintail.
Yeah, during Nick's Plaintail, I think that Liz and myself and Captain Nick were kind of having a discussion on the back channel, and not the bat channel. That'd be cool, though, wouldn't it, to have a bat channel?
That would, wouldn't it? Yeah. I just don't want to wear that mask anymore, though.
Okay. I'd like to have that yellow belt, with all the little compartments, with all the
the tool belt.
Fancy, the tool belt. Anyway.
Just get a Leatherman. It's just as good.
Yeah. Okay. Not quite, not just as good. Come on. But anyway, so I had to correct that audio, and I had to re-upload that audio and reinsert it or inject it into the RSS feed. And apparently that was something that confused a lot of the podcasting client software or apps out there. And so several people were having trouble downloading episode 635. And I guess it's my fault for, kind of confusing everything. So I'll try not to release something in the future with like extraneous audio that's not supposed to be there. So I apologize for all of you out there. Now, you can always download it directly or, there's several different ways to listen to our show. It may not be the way you're used to doing it, but you might need to go to like one of the streaming services or like, Spotify or iHeartRadio or one of the other kind of.
Listen to it on the website. Right?
Yeah, you could even go to the website and click the play button. Speaking of that, I don't know why this happened. I'm still trying to figure it out. But on the website itself, if you actually go to the episode show notes, the episode posting on our airlinepilotguy.com website, there's a player that's embedded in each of the different pages that we have for each of the episodes. And you just hit the play button and you can listen to it. You can also, until very recently, click this little thing that says download, and you can download the podcast. And I don't know why some people do that. I guess that some countries have really expensive bandwidth, and they want to download it instead of streaming it. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure exactly why that saves any cost for them, but maybe somebody could explain that to me. But as opposed to streaming it, because I would imagine the little bits and whatever that are coming over is the same amount. But anyway, whatever. Some people have certain ways of doing things. And I don't know why the audio player's built-in little link to download the file disappeared. It just, I noticed the same thing. I happened to be looking at the site and I went, wow, what happened to the download thing? And several of you emailed us and said, hey, what happened to the download link? And again, I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening there, but I didn't do it. But what I have done to kind of replace that link is I'm actually manually adding a download link that links specifically to our file that's located on the server, Liberated Syndication. And that way you can, download it like that. And then in the future, you can see exactly the address that I'm using, the URL, and you just replace 636 with 637, which is what we're doing now, .mp3, and you can go directly to that file that's located on the server. Alternatively, Liberated Syndication, our media serving company, automatically creates a website, and it's kind of an alternative site, and it has absolutely every single episode of our show since I started it back in September of 2009. But it has a way or download icon that you click on, and it's the same kind of deal. It takes you directly to that file that you can download. That site is Captain Jeff or captainjeff.libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com. I'll put that link in the show notes if you'd want to have that in your back pocket if you need to download the file for whatever reason. You can go directly to that site, and that's solid. That's a solid site. So lots of weird stuff going on in the background, and I'm trying to, all these little fires I'm trying to put out.
Nigel has a comment here.
Nigel says download equal listen offline. Okay. Okay.
So if he's out in a boat somewhere or something, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Listening offline if you don't have an internet signal. Okay. Thank you. That's I guess a legitimate reason to have the down. Although all the podcast client software that I've ever used, you have the option to have it downloaded or streaming. And I know a lot of them nowadays, the default is a streaming mode, but you can still set it up to download the file through your podcast client software. And whether you have a signal or not, you can, as long as it's been downloaded in that software, you can play it. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. You do.
Can I just
people.
raise?
Yeah.
Can I just raise us back above 50%? Because
Yes.
I just made a furf. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Sky Shadow is actually an electronic countermeasure pod, Sky Shadow, that was on Tornado. Not a weapon, but the weapon I was probably thinking of was Storm Shadow, which is a cruise missile. That's the French-British one. And the reason it's been in the news lately is because we've sent a lot to Ukraine.
Thank you,
Okay.
eyeball boxes.
That has absolutely zero to do with all the website and downloading issues.
No, I just needed to get it in before you changed the subject again.
All right. Very good. Thank you for that. Let's see. So we're just slightly above 50% now. Thank you, Captain Nick.
That's where we like to be.
Yeah, that's where we...
By the way, did you notice there was a 50% written on that show?
I did notice that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm trying to remember why I put it there, but obviously for a good reason.
Because that's our motto. Always aiming for 50% accuracy.
That's probably
So, guys,
that's
you got
probably indigestion. That's 50% correct.
Yeah.
less than half an hour. So let's do coffee fund and then some feedback.
But before we do that, I would like to continue with another item that I would like to talk about.
Apologies.
That's all right. So I was walking at the campground that I just left, walking around a couple of days ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I was checking out some of these group camp out areas or whatever for group, like families and that kind of thing. And I was walking along. I see this guy in a pickup truck with a travel trailer behind him, pulling in and stopping. And I'm thinking, okay, where is he going to go? I can't figure out where he's going. So I'm going to kind of head this way. And all of a sudden I hear, Captain Jeff. like, who in the world knows me in this campground? You know, I'm wearing my Mercedes baseball cap, and I'm thinking, how does anybody possibly recognize this person? Yeah, and then Liz is saying, "Oh, well, your mustache." You know, that's how they knew. And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Hi, been listening to the show and blah blah." And wow, are you kidding me? He said that he was thinking about the fact that he lives in Cumming, Georgia, which is up there around where the campground was. And he was getting ready to have some kind of a family camp out for the Halloween weekend. And as he was driving into the campground, he goes, I wonder if this is one of the campgrounds that Jeff uses when he's camping in this area. And they said is almost as soon as he thought about that, he sees this guy walking there, and he goes, that looks like Captain Jeff right there.
Halloween apparition.
Yeah, and Halloween apparition for sure. So anyway, so we had a nice conversation. And I'll probably get some of this wrong, Kevin. Kevin Parody is his name. And I think he's been in some kind of military reserve unit for a while. And he is getting some ratings to try to fly in a professional way. Or, well, I mean, not professional way, but a professional commercial role, and not necessarily the airlines, I'm not sure, and he's been doing some flying for some other governmental agencies as well. I think the Forest Service, he told me. Anyway, so he is on that journey of taking the next step. He's still a young man. I think he's in his mid 40s, so he's got plenty of time if he wants to get a job with the airlines. I think that's his goal. Now that I'm thinking about it, he was talking about, he would love to get a job with Delta. So, Kevin, good luck with all that, and thanks for shouting me out, and also inviting me to the chili cookout that you're doing this weekend. Unfortunately, as I said, I've moved to a different campground, so. Not in the same campground that I was, but anyway, it was very nice to meet
very nice.
Somebody in a place that I had no idea or no expectation that anybody would ever know who I am and what podcast that I do. So that was kind of interesting. Okay, now let's do the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Good latency,
Oh yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, Liz, you're really singing it out today too. Awesome. That sounds great. I'll try to, kind of line that up with the actual music. Yeah, sync it up. So the Coffee Fund is your way to support the show financially. Yes, even our show enjoys financial support, just like several of the other outstanding aviation podcasts out there. A couple of different ways to support us financially. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method, which is essentially a PayPal donation site. And no new contributions this week from that mechanism, but we also have something called Patreon. You can become a patron of the show. And we have a new executive producer. That's one of the higher levels. Thank you, Robert Simmons, for signing up to be a patron on patreon.com. You can learn about how you, too, can join this illustrious group of folks that are supporting us by going to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. And we will, too. Yay. All right. Looks like Captain Nick has gone for a physiological break. So we have...
I wonder why he hasn't taken us with us. Okay, but don't worry.
Yeah, probably best. You know, the old fart thing.
Here I am.
Did you have a closed
Talking about
farp
me
or an
again.
open farp there?
Open.
Okay, good.
Okay, so you got 20 minutes still to wrap this thing up. 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well we have we'll knock out a little bit of feedback.
I'd like some leftovers because we're getting low.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to freak you out and completely get rid of all the
We've
feedback.
never, ever run out of feedback. You realize that?
Close. Anyway.
We've gotten close, I think. Okay, let's see. I guess I should.
No.
We don't need to play the bumper, do we?
I just doing that to
Okay. Okay, so we received just this
yesterday.
Not long ago at all, just like yesterday, yeah, from Nicole, and she's referring to the angry controller at DXR,
Danbury,
which was
Connecticut.
Danbury, I think,
Danbury,
Connecticut.
yep.
Yeah, and she said, I listened to the angry controller portion of your recent podcast. I was in one of the aircraft that day. Wow, talking about small world. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and she says, when we came onto the frequency, the controller was already yelling at Whiskey Lima. Whiskey Lima is a caravan on floats. He asked for a low approach, break off to the north, to then do landings in Candlewood Lake. Whiskey Lima and Reliant 379 both called traffic in sight and maintain visual. Controller still asked for initially a left 360, but Reliant 379 said the traffic was to his left, so he offered to do a right 360. That makes sense. Reliant 379 was already halfway through their 360-degree turn, but the controller kept asking for a 360, so I'm not sure if he could actually see what they were doing, and that's something I'm going to talk about here as soon as I finish her feedback. Neither aircraft were in Danbury airspace during these radio calls. I spoke to Whiskey Lima after the fact. He said it was the third 360 he was asked to do and decided that Danbury was too busy to do a training flight. He was still about 9 miles out when he told the controller he would break off to the north. Okay, that's interesting. The confusing part for me was that he cleared Whiskey Lima to join final and later said he was not cleared for anything. Yeah, I heard that too. Also not sure why the controller didn't simply respond with maintain visual separation to both Whiskey Lima and Reliant 379. They were both VFR and again, not in DXR airspace, which we talked about as approximately 5 statute miles from the center of the airport out. So if they were 9 miles out, 9 nautical miles out, that, it's not even anywhere near the Class D airspace that this tower is located in. And again, I'm still kind of scratching my head on this one. Did the tower controller at Danbury actually have some kind of a radio display that was they were getting from maybe the Class C airspace or whatever, or like another bigger, like a radar repeater or something, some kind of a display that he could see what they were doing out there, or was he just strictly relying upon his eyeballs? The confusion about, the direction of the 360s and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's just still kind of making me, scratch my head on this. Why he was yelling at everybody and why he didn't seem to understand what was happening with his airspace. And it wasn't even technically his airspace, actually. So, yeah. But wow, talk about
Thanks, Nicole.
small world that she was listening to our show when we were covering this piece of controller screaming video. Yeah. And she was there.
It could have been any piece of controller screaming video as well. After all, there's
enough
entire channels.
Yeah, the screaming controller video channel.
.com.
Yeah.
No, it's not a small world. It's a big podcast you have here.
No.
There you go. Yeah,
well trying
said.
to butter us up.
Well said. Yeah. Stephen wants to book his next slot.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, Nick, but I'm kind of my gin from Hamburg level's quite low. No, I'm just kidding. Don't send any gin.
I actually went out and bought a new bottle of Sol gin. So I'm all right.
Nice. Okay.
It's not cheap in the UK. You've got to pay.
Probably not cheap in Germany either.
Probably not.
Well,
It's for baby food. It's baby food. You know.
Okay, moving on. This from Sam Dawson, regarding the crash of the CRJ in Nepal. He says, while covering the Nepal CRJ crash in Nepal CRJ crash during episode 631, Captain Nick and Jeff discussed something that caught my ear, commenting on the rotation rate on takeoff. It's been a few years since I've flown the CRJ variant, but the comment reminded me of the crash of a Challenger 600, a stubbier version of the CRJ 200, during a test flight in 2000. Essentially,
good Lord,
during
that's
acceleration, the fuel shifted aft in the wing. The flying pilot then over-rotating, exacerbating the aft CG by causing even more of a CG shift. The airplane entered an uncontrollable stall and crashed. I'm attaching an article about the accident. Captain Nick also asked about a stick pusher. The CRJ does have one, but if I remember correctly, it's disabled below a certain altitude to prevent an inadvertent activation at low altitude, causing the nose to pitch into the runway. I'm not claiming this happened during the Nepal accident, but a possibility. And then he kind of gives us he gives us a link to the accident that occurred, as he said, October of 2000, Bombardier CL600 2 Bravo 16 Challenger 604. That's a lot. And they go through and talk about what he just essentially, gave us a synopsis of, which is the aft center of gravity issue with the fuel actually moving aft. And so he's thinking that possibly could have been what happened here in the CRJ Nepal incident.
Yeah, that is an awful incident. And I understand that, you've got to test aircraft and sometimes faults are revealed when you do flight tests. But having baffles in your fuel tanks to prevent fuel moving when you accelerate for takeoff is such a basic engineering factor that I'm just amazed that it was allowed. The fuel tanks were allowed to exist without sufficient baffles. And you can obviously tell the reason why. I mean, if that fuel all shifts aft and changes your center of gravity, doesn't matter how good a damn pilot you are, you're never going to recover from that situation.
No. All right.
Yeah, you see me shaking my head how that could happen. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Thank you, Sam, for that. And that will be in the show notes for everybody to read the report. Brad in Charlotte, the Sultan of Wings, has a question about episode 633. I mean, I have a question about every episode, actually. But,
Everybody does.
Hello, APG crew. Hope you're all doing well. I have a question regarding the F-15 incident, the botched aerial refueling in episode 633 that I was hoping Captain Nick could address. This was the F-15 that was low on fuel and had suffered hydraulic damage to the aircraft, which resulted in an attempted arresting cable landing in Fresno. Both landings in opposite directions caused the arresting cables to break, resulting in the aircraft diverting to a nearby Navy airbase where it landed safely. On the initial landing, wouldn't the arresting cable prior to braking have significantly decelerated the aircraft to some degree? And after rolling down the runway and decelerating even more, could have been stopped by the remaining cable at the far end of the runway? I recall Captain Nick discussing that the cables work in both directions and was interested in his thoughts as to whether this would have been a viable consideration for the crew given their low fuel state. Keep up the great work, and I hope Rugger is continuing to improve. Warmest regards, the Sultan of Wings. And he also put a postscript in here for me. He said, I think it's time for a Charlotte road trip in the near future. And I agree with you, Brad.
Just don't let Steffi know you're coming.
Okay. So what, to his question, Nick, I mean, would there be some kind of deceleration even before the cable snapped, or would it be almost instantaneous when you get the snapped cable and no deceleration?
It's a very good question. I think there would be an element of deceleration. After all, you have to draw the cable taut before it snaps, and that is bound to remove some energy. But I wouldn't have thought it would have been significant. And the big problem was they had a major hydraulic failure. Now, I don't know exactly how the F-15 systems worked, but I think the reason they were trying to do approach end engagements was because they would have reduced or no brakes and possibly no nozzle steering or no way of steering the aircraft once they got it on the runway. So they wanted to stop the airplane very quickly after landing so that steering and braking weren't a problem. That is my thought, although I don't know exactly what the failure they had was. So going all the way down the runway to engage the cable at the end of the runway probably wouldn't have been an option, because if they hadn't been able to control the aircraft laterally, they probably would have done a 737-800 trick and disappeared off the side. Yes. But they could have used the tiller, and perhaps they could have broken the nose wheel. So, no, I'm checking.
They don't have a tiller, do they?
Yeah. So, and for the same reason that having lost some energy, having gone into the approach end, I think they were landing very fast anyway, because they were probably flapless because of the hydraulic problems. I wouldn't have wanted to go scooting all the way down that runway, hoping I could keep it on the runway and then trust on the far end engagement, because that's really last ditch. On an approach end engagement, if you break the cable or skip the cable when the hook doesn't engage, then you can go around and you're still safe. If you commit to going in the one at the far end and you miss or break that, then there's nothing but, oh my God, going to happen as you go off the end of the runway. So, yeah, that would be my thought. Oh, and thanks very much for asking about Rugger.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
I need to have that on one of my sound buttons.
Oh my gosh!
42-minute mark of the recording. 41 minutes.
Yeah, right. Rugger is doing
continuing. Well. Rugger is doing well. Thank you.
Good.
May I have one
very much.
One question for Captain Nick. Don't some military runways have some safety nets, which can raise up very quickly?
Well, all the British ones do. But
okay.
Again, they're just the width of the runway, and they have great big hydraulic stanchions that elevate them. And if you can't put the aircraft in the middle of that, and you hit a stanchion, that could be very dangerous for you. So yes, they have a barrier, and it's usually raised on all the UK airfields I've ever landed at. They've got one, usually raised for any aircraft landing, but obviously not for big aircraft. But like I say, if you go into it, that's fine. If you hit the middle, if you are going to hit the side, oh Lord,
there will be no. Oh my God!
There's no coming back.
Well, no time for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a lot of time. Yeah,
interestingly,
you could possibly try and eject before you ran into it, but that would not be a happy thing if you ran into the big hydraulic things that lifted up.
Interestingly, The nets themselves aren't really that strong either. They're used butterfly nets, I think. Yeah, recycled.
Well, there you go. 15's like a little butterfly. Isn't
A
it?
little butterfly.
That's right.
Well, that was a good question, though,
stuff, yeah.
Brad. Thank you.
18.
All right. 18 from High Alpha. This is a comment from our YouTube channel. Perspective from a Oz controller. I can give some perspective to the tower side for the runway incursions. Okay, we were talking about a lot of recent runway incursions, and we were kind of discussing our thoughts on, why this might be happening, at least here in the U.S., but apparently all around the world as well. He said, caveats, however, that I've not worked in a tower for 7 years, and I've not worked an American tower. In Oz, we have 2 phrases to stop a takeoff. This depends on the situation. The first is for where the aircraft is not yet rolling or moving very slowly, which is call sign, hold position, cancel, I say, again, cancel, takeoff, and then in parentheses, reason. The second is for the higher speed realm and only to be used when an aircraft is in imminent danger, with the additional note that it's up to the pilot in command to stop or go. And they would say, in this case, the call sign, stop immediately, call sign, stop immediately, and then reason. The reason is meant to be a brief explanation. In the Nashville case, it would be something like aircraft entering runway midfield. This gives the aircraft the nature of the problem for their decision making. That's good to have a reason there, because why am I on fire, or why am I being told to stop my takeoff?
Or is there did I leave a passenger behind?
Fire going on?
Yeah, that's not as important as
you forgot my stepmom.
Yes.
And then he continues, whilst the use of separate frequencies could be an issue, having everyone on the same frequency relies on the small chance that pilots catch an error when they are in the busy takeoff or landing phases of the flight, and they are even on the frequency in time to hear the other clearance. Okay, there's always that factor. It also inserts multiple frequency changes into the taxi in-out phase that are also prone to errors. Whereas if the controllers are correctly watching and coordinating with each other, that's the thing, are they? Then you have 2 people who should be independently checking the runway from a much better vantage point, prior to letting anything cross. I can't comment on their strip board setup. That's for APG After Dark, isn't it? The strip board. But let's see. But if they are diligent in routine use of blocking strips, this will also provide an additional cue that something is wrong when you try to put too many strips in the runway bay. I'll let Captain Nick grumble about the FAA rule of clearing everyone to land. I certainly don't agree with that. You have a fan, Captain Nick.
Good.
Our capital city towers now have an electronic strip system, which I'm fairly sure tells the controllers in no uncertain terms if they try to put someone across a runway at the same time as someone is cleared to take off or land on it. Yeah. I hope that the system would tell them that. So, I mean, he makes some very good points here. I still, maybe I'm just an old fogey. I still like to hear what's happening on the frequency, just to kind of as another safety valve. Yeah, I'm just nosy. That's it. Jeff's always wanting to be in everybody's business. But that was a very good point and good feedback from High Alpha on YouTube. Again, just a reminder to everybody, this is this is the platform basically we use to get everybody together for these shows. And for instance, this is a great example of what we're doing here, 637 Part 2. Captain Nick is in England, and Captain Steffen is in Germany, and I'm in the U.S. And this is just a great way to get us all together to record our audio podcast. And so if you have a chance to kind of catch a live recording, or even just go to our YouTube channel just to see, our faces made for radio, check it out sometime.
I really like the Australian wording there. I think that's both of those calls are clear, and I don't think they would interfere. I don't think you'd ever mistake that from coming from your first officer, either of those calls, which I think are good. So I think that's great. So I wish the rest of the world would adopt those. I don't know if many countries probably do, but it would be nice if everyone did. And I also love the idea that instead of using, the old-fashioned air traffic strips where your call sign and all your details are on, it's passed from controller to control. And the use of blocking strips, I assume that's the air traffic list, the board that holds the strips at some point when the runway has been allocated to an aircraft taking off or crossing. They put a strip in there to stop the other strips moving up when you want to clear for someone else to do it simultaneously. But I certainly love the idea of the fact that on an electronic system, there's an alarm that goes off if two controllers try to clear or move their strips onto the runway at the same time simultaneously. And that might be a much less expensive way of getting the smaller airfields that probably can't afford to put very expensive computer-controlled lighting systems embedded in the runway to give the pilots a visual indication. At least this, if everyone had an electronic strip system that was attached to alarms and that sort of thing, at least it might give them that extra warning they need. I don't know.
For the non-electronic strip systems, the paper ones, when you try to put too many strips in that box, this is the sound. That's the sound you hear. So that should be a warning.
Okay.
What is Stephen?
Help, please.
He's saying here, I let Captain Dick grumble about the FAA rule to clearing everybody to land. He means probably multiple landing clearance at the same time.
Yeah. Which I've never liked, but I learned to live with.
But I certainly don't agree with that. So I would wonder why. Maybe he has a.
Well, the fact is that if you were all on the same frequency, as you approached a runway, they say go to tower now, even if you are crossing. The chances of you having heard an aircraft 10 miles away that's already been given a landing clearance are pretty remote because, you're not going to hear all the landing clearances that have been given. And also the fact that I hate the idea of being given a clearance to land and then not hearing the instruction to go around because someone blocks the radio at that vital point. So I would much rather not hear my landing clearance and go around as a precaution than have it the other way around. For me, that's the fail safe is not getting a landing clearance, so you just do a go around. That's fail safe as opposed to fail dangerous, which is the American system.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think our system here in America
Are you feeling attacked there, Jeff?
A little bit, Jeff. Yeah. I'm being outgunned.
I think you better end the show and just get those other two off of there.
Man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, nobody ever asked me about their procedure of clearing multiple people. This is what I'm used to and have been doing for 35 plus years. And so it just is normal to me. But I can see it from your perspective as well.
Yeah.
Not being
one
normal.
time I heard you're number 7 clear to land. And I said, okay, number 7. I mean,
yeah, but
I can't count that high.
Normal, but honestly, in the instances where that kind of thing happens, and it does, is when you're on low visibility approach procedures, or simultaneous instrument landing system type of approaches that are being highly controlled and monitored by several different types of radar devices for even slight deviations from
Deviants.
Yeah, lots of deviants out there. That number 7 guy clear for landing. He's definitely a deviant. But anyway, so in normal instances, you're not going to get a landing clearance, let's say at Atlanta International or any of the big airports here in the U.S. if it's a standard normal day with really reasonable weather, and you're not going to get the landing clearance until you're switched over to tower, and that usually happens maybe a mile or two outside the final approach fix. So you're much closer in those. But there are cases where you might be number 2 or possibly even number 3 with a landing clearance with the 2 in front of you. But again, in that case, everything is visual. You can see everything that's happening in front of you. So it's a little bit different than those, what do they call PRM, precision runway monitoring approaches that we do a lot here in Atlanta and a lot of the other big airports where everything is much more tightly controlled. But I see your perspective as well. Trust me, I can see both arguments.
Cynical comment.
I haul boxes with a cynical comment. What? That's impossible. He says, everyone's cleared to land. Everybody's clear for takeoff. Just do whatever you like. Yeah, man. That's the way we do it here. Aha!
Cowboys in the tower.
Why even have a darn tower controller? We don't need them. Just do it. All right.
Excellent.
Shall we? Let's see. This wouldn't take too long, I think, from Nigel.
One more, number 25.
Yeah. Number 25. This is from Nige. Hello, Captain Jiff, APG crew and community. Just happened to be in an A350 out of Hong Kong listening to episode 634 and Peter Tarantelli's question about the field of view of the A350 tail camera. Please see the attached. And we're looking at that now on
That's his
our
flight
video.
plan out of Hong Kong. He was over.
Yeah, so the field of view in the camera is quite large. I mean, you can see all the way from China, all the way. Yeah, so I think he's talking about the next one, Liz. The field of. There we go. Okay, there's the field of view in the A350 camera. I also asked the pilot, and he said that they can't see the wingtips from the control seats, but you can from the side windows if you stand up. Useful. Hey. Yeah. Hope that helps. Sent with the internet from somewhere near Air France's route near Persia. Haha. Oh, well, I guess he made it because we saw him in our live audience earlier. He's probably still there. Yeah, he is.
And I stayed with him on my way up to Oswestry.
Oh, very nice.
And we had a very nice meal with one of the QFIs as well.
Oh, really?
Captain Barry Lennon. So that was good.
Did you get some
That was a
audio?
very nice night.
No?
No.
Pictures?
Sorry.
No pictures? Nothing.
What good is he? Wow.
I don't
Why
know.
was he getting his legs checked? He needs his eyes checked.
I need my head checked is what I need.
Let's wrap this baby up.
All right, let's wrap this baby up by.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes, Steffen.
Steffen's got his hand up.
He has something.
Yeah, I just want to know if he has more question about the picture itself. I mean, the cockpit has the same view. Do you already have discussed this?
Oh, yeah, because this is what they see in the seat back.
Yeah,
Pretty sure
yeah,
the
they see in the seat.
could get that, couldn't they?
Yeah, I don't find it now, but the cockpit view is the same. They have the same camera, but they have markings in screen together. So where the wheels are, even if the wheels are retracted or the fog is so thick that you cannot see the actual wheels itself, you know where they are located. And also for like the 380, you can use it very much as a reference, since when you see any point on the camera which is outside the outer engines, you can estimate that you will pass it with a wing 2 at a certain point. So there you can create your own little reference mark, but there are also imprinted reference mark for the cockpit crew as well. For the wheels
fancier version then.
Yeah.
The cap.
Okay, that's it. Nothing more to tell.
What they should do is they should put the same markings on the passenger seat back view as well, and then have like a little button on the side that says, if it appears that we're about to hit something, please push this button. And that gives you like a little warning. And then, whoa!
That in the cockpit. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. A screen button.
A screen button, yes.
Check. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you again, Steffen, for joining us today on the show. It's always a pleasure for us and hopefully for you as well. But we're going to point you over here to the airlinepilotguy.com website, where you'll find all kinds of information about the show and the community. We are also on social media. Captain Nick is going to inform us about that.
Oh, most certainly. I'm going to do this speed test. On Facebook, we're on facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. On Twitter, now X, we're at APG Crew. Instagram.com/APG Crew. And on YouTube, we are youtube.com/airlinepilotguy. That's all one word, /streams.
Streams, like the pretty bubbling streams.
Yes. Yes, if you put brooks, that won't work. If you put
Rivulets?
anything other than streams, it won't work. Rivers, they won't work.
Speaking of streams. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Nope, that's not it. Hang on.
He's lucky if he's got a nice stream at his age.
Sounds pretty strong.
Oh, yeah. Delta P.
Yeah, that's good old Hillel there, creating his own stream in the bathroom, and he's now going to tell us all about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and Plain Tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Hey man, you're going to fill up my holding tank. Oh gosh.
Talking about farts.
Yeah, definitely an open fart there. All right. Anyway, so again, we do thank Hillel for all of his management and creation of the Slack group. And we thank all of you for listening to our show, downloading it. Now I understand the importance of several of you having the ability to download the actual file. And hopefully what I've done in the meantime is going to help with that. And we thank our live audience. Man, they're just so faithfully present each and every show, and we really do appreciate that. We love you. And we love all of you listening. And finally, we'd like to take this time to say, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care. God bless.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
Auf Wiedersehen. Danke, dass ihr hier wart.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the airline pilot guy.
Good day.
I used to be such a good pilot till I started APG. I opened doors for little old ladies. I helped them to their seats. Airline pilot guy, I fly America. Oh, airline pilot guy, he can land in heavy fog. I got no friends 'cause I'm always flying. I just don't have the time. But I can land this old plane. I can land it just fine. Airline pilot guy, I fly America. Oh, airline pilot guy.